Good morning, everyone. Happy hump day from the opening drive on 101 ESPN in St. Louis. It's 7 o'clock. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Brooke Grimsley is here. Dan McLaughlin is here. I'm Randy Carricker. Matthew Rocchio is also with us. We'll be here until 10. And let's get things started with 101 ESPN weather on the zeros. It's 42 degrees in St. Louis. High today, 67 degrees. So enjoy great outdoors in St. Louis, Missouri today. 67 and sunny. The traffic, by the way, we have no traffic on Olive East or westbound in Creve Coeur. So enjoy the traffic and the weather today. Traffic and weather together brought to you by Captain Randy Carricker and 101 ESPN Jetcopter 2.
Second alert weather.
Yeah. That's right.
All right. How many guys are going golfing today? Are you guys going golfing today?
I have such a busy day, I can't.
What do you got on the docket, Randall?
Well,
that would
Dan,
preclude you from playing golf.
I have a meeting with my friends at the Fathers and Family Support Center. We've got a wrap-up meeting for our trivia night. I have a trip to Mentality. I have a Lindenwood President's Council meeting later in the day. And then at 5 o'clock this evening, it's Incarnate Word basketball as they play.
Oh, cool.
Play
You're gonna go see that, huh?
Headed on over there.
Nice.
So it's a busy day that will preclude me from even getting the clubs out of my car. How about you?
I'll figure out a way to go hit some balls. Yeah, definitely. It's too nice. I think it's going to get even over 60. I saw 72 maybe today.
Oh, doctor.
Ooh.
Which would be beautiful. Beautiful here in the Gateway City.
Perfect weather.
Yeah,
for some
absolutely.
golfing.
How about you, Brooke?
I do have a busy day as well with some other just miscellaneous things, more wedding planning stuff that seems to take up a lot of my time now, and maybe go out and play some tennis.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah.
Or pickleball.
June. You got 8 days left in, what is it today, the 21st? You got a week left in February. And you've got all of March, all of April, all of May, and then essentially all of June. You got 4 months, Brooke.
Not all of June. It's at the very beginning of June.
Oh,
so it is sneaking up on me right now.
Okay,
Where are you going for the honeymoon?
We're trying to figure that out, actually.
Oh, you don't even know yet, huh?
No, because we wanted to go to Japan, actually, for our honeymoon. And it's rainy season in June, so it's kind of a bad idea if you want to go enjoy Japan. So now we're trying to figure things out. I will gladly take any suggestions.
Okay.
Typically warm weather.
Yeah.
Mexico.
There you go. That one's an easy.
Somewhere
Jackson,
in Mexico.
Mississippi.
No.
No.
No? Okay. No.
Nothing against Jackson, Mississippi, but maybe not.
Speaking of Japan, and you've spent time in Japan, but you could get a tip from the newest, most successful member of St. Louis City SC, Jose Kojima, scoring the winner last night in the 90th minute. St. Louis City SC with a CONCACAF Champions Cup victory over the Houston Dynamo, 2-1 over at City Park. It was awesome. What a fun game. What a fun atmosphere to witness.
Well, in his timeline yesterday, too, signed with City SC that morning and then makes his MLS debut, subbing into the game at the 86th minute, and then scores his first MLS goal, and it was the match winner at the 90th minute, and it was a dagger. That's just a huge, huge moment for Kojima. It was very exciting to see.
No one is ever going to forget Tim Parker. He's now scored the club's first ever goal at Austin FC, club's first ever MLS Cup in the playoffs. He scored against Sporting Kansas City. And then the first ever CONCACAF Champions goal last night against the Houston Dynamo. So you're not going to forget that name. I mean, that's kind of historic to see Tim Parker do what he did last night. I enjoyed the game on television, and the announcer at one point said, "Close your eyes and listen to what's happening here in St. Louis." He said it's like being in Europe. It's like watching some of the top teams that you'll ever see in the world. He said, "Close your eyes, take it in." And I thought, man, that's pretty cool to see this atmosphere that you have in downtown St. Louis.
It's phenomenal.
It really is. And the way that they specifically designed the stadium, too, if you guys have been there, you'll notice that at the very top, the way that's kind of, I believe it's steel that they have there, where the sound from the fans bounces up and then back into the atmosphere. So it makes it seem even louder, which it already is loud as it is, but it really just adds to that element of the atmosphere.
So now, after the victory last night, City will travel to Houston for the second leg of the first round with a 2-1 lead. The first tiebreaker is a away goal, so City just needs to avoid a 1-0 Houston result to advance to the next round of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Go City. They'll open the MLS season, by the way, at City Park on Saturday versus Real Salt Lake.
The real Salt Lake.
Yeah.
It might be Real, but it's okay. We like the real Salt Lake.
Yeah. There's the fake Salt Lake.
I'm ready for whatever you throw at us, Randall. Real Salt Lake.
Okay.
Real Salt Lake. Now, Tim Parker, I think it's interesting you bring that up, Dan, because are we seeing a St. Louis legend being born, story being born here because of everything that you just listed? Are we seeing that happening right now?
I don't know if I'd call him a legend. I would just call him a footnote that you wouldn't forget in soccer or St. Louis sports history because of the goals that he scored. Those are historic goals that will never happen again, and he's the guy that's got 3 of them. That's hard to believe.
In 10 years, when somebody's doing the fight in the mornings on 101 ESPN in St. Louis, that'll be one of the questions, right?
Right.
So, go Timmy. They're a friend of the station, too.
He is. Very close friend of the station.
Yeah, he is. Good. College basketball last night wasn't as good a result as City SC was. St. Louis University down by 20, a little more than 20 most of the game. They actually got close at the end at garbage time. Duquesne, as they're known around here, they beat St. Louis U 81-66. It is bad for St. Louis U. Could it be worse? Yes, they could be winless in the conference, like Mizzou is. They lost to 5th-ranked Tennessee, 72-67. Although, at one point, you thought Mizzou had a chance.
Yeah, especially if you watched that first half. I had to double-check the score. I was like, wait a minute. Is this really happening where they're going to toe-to-toe with the number 5 Vols? But then, of course, the second half of that game happened. Dalton Connect, he really provided a lot of that scoring and stepped up in the second half of that.
Arkansas, Florida, Ole Miss, Auburn, LSU. That's what they have left for Missouri. I'm not sure that they pick up a win. They would go winless then in conference play. SLU gave up 51% from the field. They cannot defend. That's been the story all year. And Sincere Parker coming off really good games and scoring 30-plus. He was 1 for 8. I thought it was telling, though, he only played 15 minutes in the game. The other thing was Gibson Jimerson, 2 for 10 from three-point territory. So when you add it up, man, nothing's going right for either of these teams. SLU has George Washington, Richmond, Rhode Island, Dayton, St. Bonaventure. I could see maybe one win out of that, but maybe not. Maybe they continue to go winless in their stretch of games here down the stretch.
One of the things, if you don't have talent, most of the time you can still defend. I'm shocked at St. Louis U's inability to defend.
That's what he's built his program on, is that you have to be able to defend before you find minutes on the floor. Again, 51% from the field, and also they gave up 35% from 3. A lot of that was uncontested. Watched the game last night. Wasn't pretty, any way you want to look at it. So SLU again, with 5 games left in the conference, may not win one of those games. It'll be one of the most disappointing seasons under Travis Ford. It'll be the most disappointing season they've had under Travis Ford. I need to correct that. That would be the most disappointing season.
And they have kind of tried to sell, because they haven't had the tournament success, they've tried to sell the idea of, well, we've had 4 consecutive 20-win seasons at St. Louis U, and we've never had that before. Well, now you don't have that to fall back on, and it just doesn't look... Some coaches build teams. Some have been able in the past to build programs. Well, it doesn't seem like Travis has either now.
He's got 1 NCAA tournament appearance. I thought the COVID year, if it doesn't hit, that team was really good and had a chance to go and do some special things, but like everybody else, dealing with COVID, and it affected their program, and now he's got 1. And I just feel like Chris May brings him back another year. I don't know what the buyout is. I've heard it's a lot.
I've heard.
But I think that he'll give him one more shot, even though they don't have a lot coming back and a lot coming in. I bet he gives him one more year, whether fans like it or not.
Really? You think so?
I do.
Wow.
Just because of the buyout. The buyout is huge.
And I do understand the overall body of work. Travis Ford is great, but this season has just been, I agree with you, Dan, I would say the worst under his time here with the Billikens. And where do they move forward from here? Hopefully he will be able to recruit. I would like to see recruiting like what he has done before, recruiting more locally. Of course, the transfer portal and all that, utilizing that a little bit more. But where do you think that he goes from here with the program? It seems like they've just always had that staple, really talented player here.
Yeah, and I wonder if they have at St. Louis University, and I know the boosters they listen. And they're trying. The boosters that are involved are really engaged and trying. But I wonder if there's enough there to get that big-time player, that star player that you're talking about, Brooke, in the transfer portal to come to St. Louis University. That's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to pay for somebody to come there.
Apparently, the recruiting class that they have coming in isn't great. So, to your point, transfer portal, lay it all on the line for SLU and go for broke and try to bring some of these kids in and convince them that, hey, we don't have a lot coming back. And if you come here, not only are you going to get paid, but you're going to play.
Yeah.
And those are two things that players are looking for.
And the Cardinals will get things started for their spring season on Saturday. They've got split squads against the Marlins and the Mets. Zach Thompson will start one game. Matthew Liberatore will start the other game. And it looks like, the way that it's working here, that you're going to have a head-to-head competition. I guess Mats is locked in right now as the fifth starter, right? And so it'll be for the sixth starter, either Thompson or Liberatore. And I wonder how far down the line they go. I wonder if they let these guys go head-to-head, pitching in the same game when they don't have split squads. Clearly, this is the start of it, but hopefully it's a real competition.
Are they also, is this a way for them to see if they will use a six-man rotation going into the start of the season?
I think also just extending guys, getting ready for who doesn't make it on the team, and maybe both do make it on the team. One's going to go to the bullpen, if not both, but you have to have depth in the minor leagues, so you got to extend both guys to be starters just in case you have injury or whatever would pop up for them.
Right. And Brooke, to your point, I think that with the way the schedule plays out and the fact that we're in 2024, it's not my day anymore where you could have a five-man rotation and get through the first 8 days of the season without a sixth starter. I just think the way things are set up in baseball now, they almost have to go with a six-man rotation to start the season, especially with the age of the free agents that they brought in and the relative youth and lack of innings under the belt of people like Zach Thompson and Matthew Liberatore. The only person that I would see there, well, not even Michaelis or Matz, because he's hurt. Not hurt now, but he's going to be. So I don't think that there's a guy where you say, okay, that's our Joaquin Andujar, that's our Max Scherzer, that's our guy that, okay, we'll start him on the first day, we'll start him on the fifth day, we'll start him on the 10th day, and he'll go for us and he'll give us 6-7 innings right out of the chute. They don't have that guy.
They got Sonny Gray. He will be that guy. We're going to find out because he's going to go every fifth day.
Yeah, well, I wonder, though, Dan, if you start the season with him, because last year was a career year for him, and he's never been a big innings guy. He gave the innings last year.
146, I think, last year. Or he's averaged
184 last year. But
he's averaged 146 the last 3 years.
Yeah, so I wouldn't want to count on that, and I wouldn't want to risk that at the age of 34. I want to have him as fresh as he can possibly be in August and September.
Yeah, I think to your point, too, about looking at the other guys, Lance Lynn, and some of the others that are elder statesmen, that's what I'm going to call them, is that a six-man rotation makes sense because you want to ease into the season. It's just the way baseball's played this day and age. You just ease into the season and give them a chance to fully build up. I mean, some people come out of spring training and they're still not built up where they need to be, and you see a quick hook on these pitchers, and that may be the case in why they're doing what they're doing.
And they do play 8 in a row out of the box, then their day off, and then 5 more in a row before another day off. So we'll see.
And it seems like, just based on the conversation that we had with John Denton and some of the other reports, if they do go with a six-man rotation, it would be Matthew Liberatore. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, I'd put Zach Thompson in there, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily Liberatore. I think it's a competition with those two guys, and then one either goes to the bullpen or they go to the minor leagues.
I would hope. I think it's going to be really hard to have both of them on the roster.
I do, too.
So I would hope that this is a legit competition. We haven't even seen them pitching games yet. I hope that over the course of the 5 weeks of spring training games that we get a legit, because we don't always get a lot legitimate competition from the Cardinals. I hope we get one here.
I think the competition, what's left is those two guys, which stretches into the conversation about the bullpen, and that's about it. I think it's going to be kind of an uneventful spring unless someone gets hurt, but your everyday lineup is set, your starting 5 is set, and now your bullpen and this competition comes into play.
And realistically speaking, you have Herrera, you have Carpenter, you have Alec Burleson, and who am I leaving out? Dylan Carlson.
Oh, are you thinking about your bench?
Yeah, you've got a 4-man bench, and that's it.
Yep, and that's the way it goes, and then this is the competition with these two guys, and then What do you think? 4 spots already? See, I'm just going off the top of my head, but 4 spots in the bullpen already are kind of locked up, and then you have a competition for a couple more.
I think more, because I think you've got the 2 imports. You've got Gallego, or you've got Kittredge. You've got...
I mean, for the available spots, but I agree with what you're saying. There's a lot more guys that could get in there.
Yeah, but I think those 2 are locks. I think Romero is a lock.
Yes.
I think Gallegos is a lock. I think Helsley is a lock. So that's 5 that I think are locks right out of the box. And then you need to have that 6th starter spot that we're talking about. So that's 6. So really, I think you've got 2 open spots down there.
And I would like to see Riley O'Brien be a part of that, just based off of what I've seen so far. I think that he would be a great addition to that bullpen.
And his minor league strikeout numbers were off the charts last year.
Nick Robertson would be another name, too, that they'll take a hard look at. And they'll put them in situations where it's not the ideal matchups that they normally get in regular season play. So if you're playing the Mets, you might get the middle of their lineup. You're going to see them a ton. If you see the Nationals, you're going to get the middle of their lineup. Everyday players to see exactly how they fare in those situations.
And I wonder if Ryan Fernandez, because he was Rule 5, if going in he has the edge, everything else being equal with him or a Nick Robertson or somebody like that, because they would have to offer him back to Boston. I wonder if Fernandez would have a built-in advantage there.
Might. Who was the guy in 96? Mejia, was it? That stayed?
Miguel Mejia.
Yeah, that stayed all through the season and maybe appeared in like 15 games, but they didn't want to give him up.
Yeah, scored a winning run against the Dodgers,
That's right.
in L.A. Yeah, and then he spends his year here, and all of a sudden, he's not as good as we thought he was going to be.
We kind of wasted a spot with him, too.
We did. That is our opening salvo here on the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Coming up, it is Wednesday. It is springtime. It's a beautiful day in St. Louis. You might have no plans, but you need something to do. So if you have any questions for us, it's Ask Uncle Randy Day. So all you need to do is text in 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO. And you have Ask Uncle Randy from anywhere in the country. If you have a question for us, we'll have an answer for you here on 101 ESPN. During the last 30 years, the State Farm Missouri Valley Conference Men's Basketball Tournament has become one of the staples of the St. Louis sports calendar, and we've got it coming up March 7th through 10th at Enterprise Center, the 30th year for Arch Madness at Enterprise Center, and you can check it out by just going to archmadness.com and picking up your tickets today. And it's a really competitive race night right now. Drake and Indiana State are tops in the league with league records of 13-3, but Bradley will have a chance to win the tournament. Northern Iowa will have a chance to win the tournament. SIU will have a chance to win the tournament, and you have the opportunity to win as well, because it's some of the most fun basketball you'll ever see. spot in the big dance is on the line, and whoever comes away with that MVC Valley title is going to go to the NCAA tournament. It's a lot of fun. There's a great family plan right now. You can get tickets. You can get 4 large popcorns, 4 large drinks, and really enjoy yourself at Enterprise Center by going to Arch Madness. All you need to do to get tickets is go to archmadness.com. You'll love it. It's a great thing here in St. Louis, and it's a lot of fun for everybody. Go to archmadness.com.
Drive on 101 ESPN. Got a question for Uncle Randy? Let him dive into his infinite well filled with wisdom to find you answers. Text 314-399-9646. It's Ask Uncle Randy on 101 ESPN.
Rocc Grimsley is here. Danny Mack is here. Matthew Rocchio. I'm Randy Carricker. It's time for your questions for Ask Uncle Randy. And if you have any serious things going on in your life and you just need a little bit of advice, that's what you have Uncle Randy for. He's here to give you just clean, unvarnished advice. And all you need to do is text in. Matthew, what do you got for us?
Well, this is just a perfect one.
Okay.
Dear Uncle Randy, I'm in sales and I love to play golf. I'm a member at a local pricey club, so of course I want to get my money's worth. But I may have a problem of playing more and working less. I vowed to work harder and play less golf this summer. However, I just can't let today's weather forecast get by me. Do you think I should go play golf today or stay in the office? P.S. When do you want to play together?
We'll set that up. Yes, you are a salesperson. Golf should be part of your daily routine at this time of year when the weather is good. That's what salespeople do. That's why you have that membership. It should be, if I'm not mistaken, tax deductible. So, yes, you take advantage of today because here's my thing. Happy employees are effective employees. They're productive employees. If you want to get the most out of your abilities, then what you need to do is head to that pricey club today, have your clubs ready to rock and roll, hit that first tee shot, and if you need to forget about work, do it. Maybe it's a little too much pressure that you're under to sell a lot of stuff. Either way, yes, get on the course today. That is my that's not my recommendation. That's an order from Uncle Randy.
Well, if anything, if you're more relaxed after playing golf, which I know that golf sometimes can be frustrating. I've learned that the hard way. But at the same time, if you're a little bit relaxed, that I assume that you might do a little bit better with sales. Also with sales, a great way to bring possible clients over. I see a lot of benefits in this.
100%, Brooke. There's no doubt about it.
Business done on the golf course.
Yes.
Sales done on the golf course. Happens all the time.
Teach your youngsters how to play golf. It makes a big difference in their business life.
What would happen, though, if you went out with this particular listener? Would you get who's going to work who here, Randy? Are you going to try to get him to sponsor you, or is he, trying to get you to dive into his business?
We're tight.
Or her business.
I am that person's uncle, and we're just out for a good time.
Okay.
We are not talking business. We're going to talk sports. The person obviously is interested in sports, and that's their expectation of me, is to get out on the golf course and talk sports. I don't want to drag people into work. It's kind of depressing. Sometimes if that person is in sales or if that person has a management position, I would hope that person doesn't even bring their phone on the course if they don't want to.
I don't know. I got to have my phone with me.
I do too. But
it's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah, if they don't want to bring theirs, that's fine. Yeah, it is terrible.
Do you start to get anxious when you don't have your phone on you?
Yes. When you lose it for like 5 minutes and you don't know where it is, it's like your life is gone.
Yeah, I've told the story before about how I lost my phone for about 20 minutes. I was here in the office. I was doing the fast lane at the time, and I was furious, and I was pounding on things, looking all over, took the elevator, went downstairs, looking all over in my car. And then after literally 20 minutes, I realized, oh, I'm on the phone with Dan McLaughlin.
Oh, my God. Dan, did he tell you that? And you're like,
I remember it, but I can't remember if he was yelling at me or what was happening.
I cursed under my breath a few times.
Yeah, it happens.
I'm an idiot. I'm just an idiot, okay? But at least I embrace my idiotism.
At some point since like 2010, we've all been on the phone with somebody, been like, I can't find my phone. Yep. Uncle Randy, I have an interview in a couple weeks to hopefully become a city firefighter. I don't usually interview well. What are good tips, first of all?
Okay, if you don't interview well, my recommendation is that you know the people that you're interviewing with. I hope you get to interview with Chief Jenkerson. I know he's listening this morning. And the other thing is, for that particular job, talk about how you want to serve. Make everything revolve. And here's the thing. If you aren't a good interviewee, be able to pivot to why you want that job. If you want to serve, and that's why you want to be a firefighter, then say, my goal in life and my goal with this job is to serve others. I know I'm going to put my life on the line for others, and that's what I want to do because I love the city of St. Louis, and I want to be here working with these people.
And also, I think it's always good, too, to ask somebody who is currently in that job position of what you want. So going to another firefighter and saying, hey, what did you say? What kind of questions were asked so that you feel even more prepared for that situation, and what other questions could come up?
Just relax.
Yeah.
Just relax.
Be yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
And by the way, you can't work for a better guy than Dennis Jenkerson, the fire chief of the city of St. Louis. He's awesome.
Yes.
Dear Uncle Randy, I'm about to propose to my girlfriend. Where in the St. Louis area would you pick for the most beautiful place to get engaged? No golf courses, please. Let's go
golf
city.
courses. Okay, that's reasonable. That's fair.
Well, that's tough now. No, I'm kidding.
Well, okay. There are multiple things you can do, but I would start with the idea of Forest Park in front of the Jewel Box would be great.
I thought you were going to go with the free zoo.
Well, that's in Forest Park, is it not?
That's what I'm saying.
It's less free in those situations.
Exactly.
Now, and we're not quite to that time of year. I don't know what time you're going to be doing this, but I would suggest that the Botanical Garden is going to be beautiful very quickly, and so that if you're going to have photos, but if you're not going to have photos, then you know what I would do? I would try something like the new 360 over at Westport. Go to the top of that, and if you're having dinner, find a creative way. I know that one of the it's not as creative anymore but having the champagne with the glass with the ring dropped in the glass. And
That's
stuff
adorable.
That
It is adorbs. And you know, on a nice clear St. Louis day, if you're up at the top of the Gold Tower at Westport, that'd be fantastic. I think
How did you propose to Joan?
it really never happened.
Oh, you knew there was true love?
Yeah,
and
it was.
Let it rip.
Yeah, it was just one of those things.
Nice.
Yeah,
Oh.
never really happened.
That's sweet.
That's you guys know the story. Matthew does of the.
I was gonna say, have you adjusted the story that you're not like so microwave forward with it anymore?
No,
Did she tell you, "Hey, Randy, can we edit this story for me, please"?
Yeah, so that was her engagement present was a microwave.
Very microwave forward.
I
with the
remember
story.
this
Yes, there you
story.
go. See?
Yes, it's actually, everybody has their own version of the story.
Saying it just happened casually instead of saying microwave sounds a lot better. I'm just gonna say that right now. That's a better opening.
I was
line.
a different guy then.
Aw. Also, another suggestion, if you do want to do it outside, say Forest Park or something like that, there's these picnic services, like Alpaca Picnic. I've used them before for an event, and they will actually help set up like a very nice setup, and I've seen them do proposals. It just kind of adds another little element to it if you want to do it outside at Forest Park.
Good call. And by the way, one other cool one. If you wanted to make it a photo op, you can never go wrong with having the arch in the background.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a pretty good shot. Dear Uncle Randy, I got totally hosed on a trade on a new 2024 Chevy Malibu. Should I go to another dealership for the service out of spite?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. If you got hosed
answer.
and they were hosing you intentionally, yeah, you go to another dealership out of spite. The only thing is, it's a Chevy.
I think that's what, it's shutting down, though.
Because there are dealerships that provide for the first year or so, or the first several trips in for maintenance, free maintenance. So make sure that you don't have free maintenance before you go to another dealership and pay for it.
Fuse Automotive. I mean, they're the best.
There you go.
Fuse Automotive. They've done a lot for youth in our area with the Lou Fuse Sports Complex. Fuse Automotive. Might help that one of the fuses is my neighbor.
Oh, well,
nice.
No, that's a good thing.
He'll take care of you. Good. The brothers will take care of you. I'm telling you, they're good guys.
Dear Uncle Randy.
Hey, by the way, speaking of that, what is going to happen to Rams Park, which is currently being run by the Lou Fuse Athletic Group?
It's in the fall, right? October, that Stan Kroenke can buy it for $1?
Yeah, he gets it back for $1 if he wants it.
So I would think that he'll buy it and just let it sit there.
Which would be awful.
Yeah, but
I mean, there's
that's
so many kids that get in there, and it's helpful for the community.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid he does something like that.
I think he would hate the idea of kids in St. Louis having fun. So
how about just fun in particular?
That? Yeah, I could see that.
Oh yeah, if he can own a piece of land, he's going to take it. And look, he bought a piece of land, the Wagner Ranch, was it in Texas, whatever the ranch was, and there were people that had lived there for 50 years, and the previous owners had actually asked him, "Hey, can these people stay on the land?" A lot
of veterans too lived on that property,
and he kicked them off.
Terrible.
He owns a piece of land in Canada that people have to go from public land to this ranch. It's a big ranch, and then go and get to public land. He will not let people cross, and there's roads to drive to this lake where people have fished for years. So he's going to be as spiteful as he can possibly be, and it's, I think, more pronounced here in St. Louis. Thank you, Matthew.
You're welcome.
And thank you very much for your texts. We do appreciate them. Coming up here on 101 ESPN, Rob Manfred's going to be around for 5 more years. What would you like to see with baseball before Manfred retires? That's coming your way on 101 ESPN. Hey, I want you to know what's going on with Schnucks because we've got some exciting news for you. St. Louis City Player Pal Sweepstakes brought to you by Schnucks Rewards, is back. It was such a hit last season, Schnucks has brought it back for 2024. Player Pals are the kids who walk out onto the pitch with the starting lineup before the game, and your kid has a chance to be one. All you have to do is be a Schnucks Rewards member. Download the app if you haven't yet, and you'll see the sweepstakes right there on the homepage, and then just click to enter. The sweepstakes is open now through March 5th, and there's going to be 30 winners for 3 possible matches. Winners will win a Player Pal spot for their 7 to 11-year-old child, plus a Player Pal spot for a friend or sibling who's also 7 to 11 years old. With Schnucks Rewards, you will never walk alone, and neither will St. Louis City SC with the Schnucks Rewards Player Pals. Yep, you can walk out there, your kid with Berkey or with Klaus or one of the big stars on St. Louis City SC. Enter to win the St. Louis City SC Player Pal sweepstakes today in the Schnucks Rewards app. Come on, City, all for City.
This is Rocc with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. St. Louis City last night with a big win as they open up their second season with a win over the Houston Dynamo, 2-1 in the first leg of the first round of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They will now go to Houston next week for the second leg, and they will try to avoid a 1-0 Houston result. There's also a bunch of other ones if they score a lot of goals, but that's the simplest one that would get a Houston win in the second leg. So City just trying to avoid a 1-0 Houston win coming up on Tuesday. But before that, they have another game on Saturday as they open the MLS schedule when they host Real Salt Lake at City Park. Also last night in college basketball, St. Louis University falls again in A-10 play to Duquesne, 81-66. Tennessee, number 5 in the nation, almost falls to Mizzou, but they eventually leg it out 72-67. And number 1, UConn had their 12-game winning streak broken in impressive fashion as number 15, Creighton, rolled 85-66. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff. Find your roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffautoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred announced last week that he's going to retire in 2029, and he's still got some things to accomplish. What would you like to see happen with baseball before he does? And we've kind of come up with some ideas that we have. Brooke, what is one thing that you would like to see happen in baseball before Rob Manfred calls it a career?
Well, there's a lot of things, but I think the most important one that he's currently facing right now is making baseball accessible to everyone. And he has addressed that he wants to figure out where he has no more blackouts. I think that's very, very important, especially when we're talking about growing the game of baseball, not just here on a national level, but you also want to grow it internationally. Figuring out a way to make it more accessible to everyone, I think, needs to be at the forefront of what he's doing. He's mentioned that before, and how he will handle this and hopefully fix it, I think, could really define or be a defining part of his legacy.
That was my number one. Make it accessible for all the fans to watch on television. I think his legacy could also be cemented with expansion. And if they expand into a couple of markets that are craving more professional sports, I think that would help. Let's go back just a little bit, by the way. And right now, I think he's going to be remembered for the Houston cheating scandal, this debacle with the Oakland A's, if they can't get that figured out. The lockout of 2021, which was something that I had kind of forgotten, and did a little research and just, thinking about what he's done in his tenure. But to Brooke's point, you got to make the games accessible to all fans across the nation, and that includes your home market and your home teams.
And Guys, I don't disagree with that. There's got to be a way to allow fans to consume the product, no doubt about it. But the product has taken a hit, and we have a tendency as a viewing public to look at commissioners and only look at the negative and not recognize the positives that commissioners have done. I think Rob Manfred, overall, the way that the Houston scandal was handled notwithstanding, I think the game is better now than the day he took over. I think the action is better. I like the sport better. The economy of the sport has improved for the owners. So there's a lot of good things. But there is one problem that affects the quality of the product, and that is the middle class being squeezed out. And, Brooke, we've talked about this, and Dan, I think you were here that day, where we talked about the fact that the Cardinals essentially had a first- or second-year bullpen and a rookie bench last year. And that $4 million bench player, the guy who could give you a quality at-bat in the seventh inning, the guy who knows how to play the game, that Abraham Nunez, that Miguel Cairo, that Jose Oquendo, that guy has been squeezed out of the sport because teams aren't willing to pay for that quality. They say, oh, I'll just have a kid do it. Well, this is why, and this should be a discussion right now, because this CBA goes through 2026. They should talk about having a salary floor and a very high salary cap. Now, one thing that Rob Manfred needs to point out to Tony Clark and Scott Boras is that every time a quarterback in the NFL signs a contract, he's making more than all but two MLB players. Scherzer and Verlander are the only two guys that are making more than most quarterbacks in the NFL. So he's got to point out that here we've got 53-man rosters, and we've got a lot of players that are making a whole lot more than baseball players are. So a salary cap is not necessarily a bad thing, but a salary floor is a good thing for your group of players, for your union.
Yeah, I love the idea of having a salary floor. Now, do I think that this will ever happen? No, because of how powerful the players' union is, and we know that. They are not going to agree to that whatsoever, but it just helps with the competitiveness of the game, where you have teams, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it because I think we all know, like the Pirates, where sometimes they're not willing to spend as much money. You see the Rays, they also are really good at developing and finding talent, but then they don't really want to keep that talent when it comes to the big payday. There's so many other organizations and franchises that you can point to that are doing that. I think that it just helps with the competitive balance of the game if you have a salary floor and a salary cap. And on top of that, if you added, like we've been discussing, that deadline, that signing deadline, how much more exciting all of that would be.
Salary floor would also, to an extent, eliminate tanking. And I think that's a good thing, too. I mean, you shouldn't be able to gut the roster down to a payroll that's $35 to $40 billion when you have other teams that are at the tax threshold or a salary cap, if you will. So it eliminates tanking. I think the other thing that could cement his legacy, highly controversial, whether you want it or not, would be the automatic strike zone.
Yep.
And I know there's some that say you got to have it. There are others that say keep the human element of the game, which I get. But I think we're within 2 years of seeing an automated strike zone. And that will be something that will cement his legacy, whether you like it or not, but it's coming.
Even a challenge system. There are a couple of people, by the way, Angel Hernandez, CB Bucknor, I don't think they can be embarrassed. They're so bad, they're incapable of being embarrassed. But I do believe a challenge system will cause umpires to focus more. So even if a team has 3 challenges during the course of a game to the strike zone, I think the fear of being shown up by the automatic system will benefit baseball because I think players or umpires will focus more.
The catchers, by the way, it eliminates pitch framing. So just put a guy back there that can throw a little bit, catch and throw, have the quick pop-up time for stolen base attempts, and you don't have to worry about catch framing or soft hands behind the plate for the most part. I think the other thing that's an issue that could be addressed in the next 5 years is the reinstatement of Pete Rose to Major League Baseball, and would he get into the Hall of Fame, where I know that people are split on this, and if he did bet on his own team, which by all accounts he did, then can you reinstate him? I mean, he's, I think, 80-plus years old right now.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Pete Rose get back in at least the fold and then have a chance to get to the Hall of Fame.
He should have a plaque in Cooperstown. There's no doubt that he should have a plaque in Cooperstown. To swing this back, though, to the beginning, expansion would take work from others. A salary floor, a salary cap would take work from others. A signing deadline for free agents would take work from others. An automated strike zone would take work from others. The only thing that Rob Manfred can do himself is what you brought up first, Brooke, is the television situation. He doesn't need help from the union, and he can improve the sport dramatically just by taking some measures of his own to make it better with the television exposure.
Because we've talked about it. Baseball is regional, and a lot of that does have to do with where you're able to watch the games and where you're able to access it. And so if you are able to get rid of those TV blackouts, I think it's just going to be better for the game of baseball overall.
Something that will not be talked about is the international signings. You're signing 12-year-old kids. Guys are lying about their ages to get signed, which you look at the background of where some of these people are coming from, and Carlos Martinez grew up on a dirt floor. I mean, do you really blame him for what he had to do to get to Major League Baseball or other players? But I would imagine that's something that needs to be tinkered as they move forward.
Absolutely. That's Dan. That's Brooke. I'm Randy. Coming up here on 101 ESPN, we've got TIOLI. Get your text in to the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO. Take it or leave it, coming your way on 101 ESPN. Hey, I want you to know about my friends at Chesterfield Fence and Deck. A few years ago when we had our house built, we had multiple dogs and needed to keep the dogs within the confines of the yard. And there was only one company to get in touch with, and that was Chesterfield Fence and Deck. Had the fence installed, and I'm telling you, they told us it would be a lifetime product, and it has been. At Chesterfield Fence and Deck, they do such fantastic work. They get great reviews. They're A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, and you'll love working with their people. They've been in business for 56 years, and when you've been around that long, that means you're doing things right. At Chesterfield Fence and Deck, they provide the best and longest lasting outdoor products available with skilled installation teams who carry out a mission to be the very best in customer service. You can reach Chesterfield Fence and Deck by giving them a call at 800-300-4054 or going to chesterfieldfenceanddeck.com. And it's more than just fences and decks. If you're in the market for a sunroom or a screen room or a pergola or a patio, maybe a retaining wall, they'll come out and provide you a free, no-obligation project design for your custom project with Chesterfield Fence and Deck. When you tell them Randy sent you, you're going to get 48 months interest-free financing for the rest of this month. Go to Chesterfield Fence and Deck, the sign you have the very best.
take it. If you don't, send it right back.
Get your text into 314-399-9646 and give us your take it or leave it.
Brought to you by Gloria Lou Realty. Visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com and start packing.
That's my final offer. Take it or leave it.
Brooke, Dan, Matthew, and Randy. Time for TIOLI here on 101 ESPN. Jeannie Bouchard, who's a great pro tennis player, says to TMZ, quote, people think there's an automatic transition from tennis to pickleball, and there's not. It's a completely different sport. Okay, our resident great tennis player is Brooke Grimsley. Take it or leave it. Jeannie Bouchard is wrong.
I'm going to have to leave it because if you actually go and see some of the pro pickleball players, they're former tennis players. So it actually is a pretty reasonable transition because you have to have the hand-eye coordination. There is some similarities. I do agree that there's different rules, different other aspects to the game, different terminology in some cases, like the kitchen, but at the same time, I think there's a reason why a lot of tennis players are able to transfer over to pickleball. Here's the thing, I didn't think I was going to like it at first. I was like, wait, what is this sport that's taking over my tennis courts? Like just being all grumpy like that. But then after I played, I was like, oh, this is like tennis, a little bit easier where you don't have to do as much running around.
Oh, I like that.
I enjoy it.
I have never played pickleball, but I've not had one person come to me that has and said I didn't enjoy it. Everybody loves it.
Apparently
Not
it's
one
addictive.
person. Everybody's playing it.
Yeah, except for me.
If you guys
Me
want to go
too.
out with me, I will help you guys
Look
out.
at us.
'Cause
We
gotta
get hurt.
Well, but we got to beat the fast lane, and the fast lane has athletes now. I mean, with Carrie and Jamie and
We got
Anthony
Brooke.
and Marcy,
Yeah.
we got Brooke. We would win.
I will train you guys.
Okay, good.
I will train you guys.
Yeah. So and
make it work out.
Okay, so power rankings of shows for pickleball here at 101 ESPN.
Oh gosh.
So you've got us, you've got T-Mac and Ajax, the balloon party. You've got BKM Ferrario, and then you've got Fastlane. Current power rankings of those four teams.
Well, I'm going to have to pick us,
Yeah,
of
we're
course,
one.
because
Yeah, I don't
confidence
think
is
there's
key
any doubt.
here, and I'll be coaching you guys.
Yeah.
Now, I know that T-Bone played tennis.
True. Good point.
But Carrie, I know, and Carrie and I, we like to be competitive. So and Jamie plays. So maybe us, Fastlane, and then BK and Ferrario plus T-Bone.
And then T-Mac and Ajax bringing up the rear, huh?
Oh, yes.
This show is about honesty, right? We have no chance.
Oh, no,
come on,
Dan,
Dan.
come on.
No,
Believe
we-
in yourself. Confidence
Look at
is
Randy
key.
and I. Do you think that we're going to get out there and not like tear up our knees?
Counting on Brooke and Matthew. Matthew
We'll figure
Matthew's
it
played-
out.
Matthew's good. Matthew might have a ringer too, right?
I'm pretty solid. We'll be fine.
this
We'll be,
was-
we'll be fine.
Pretty
I'm not.
solid.
I'm not. I'm not scared of any of that.
I like it.
I'm not scared
Good.
of any. Usually, you want me to be scared of another show on this station? Are you kidding me? Are we playing actual football or actual hockey?
No.
Then I'm number one with a bull at the opening drive, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
like it.
I need to make this happen. But first, don't worry, guys. I will make sure I will help you a little bit first.
Thank you.
No injuries. We'll have to do a lot of stretching beforehand.
And by the way, Jeannie Bouchard, you're wrong. Sorry.
There you go. So a lot of Bears fans and NFL fans are in detective mode right now because some people noticed that Justin Fields unfollowed the Bears on Instagram. Take it or leave it, in this day and age of young athletes and social media, there is actually something there to that, and he will be traded possibly?
Now, I also read that they don't know if he ever did follow the Bears on Instagram.
That could be the case, but it's just so funny now that that's what people do. Is that
Absolutely,
they go look
yeah.
at their likes, they go look at who they're following, who they unfollow. People keep track of every single
They do.
little thing.
Yeah, but to your point, I'm going to take it that it is a thing. If he's got an Instagram account and isn't following the Bears, that's a thing. I'm going to take it.
All right, take it or leave it. This is
Did you
hell
take
of a...
that or leave it with Justin Fields?
Oh, I'm taking it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all social media this time with young people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you look at you always bring up the Lars Pippen or whatever
Larsa
the hell their
Pippen.
name. Yeah,
Yeah,
Lars
Larsa.
Pippen. I mean, they
Scooty
unfollow, follow. You know,
Yeah, it's a big deal.
it is a big deal. All right, take it or leave it. Zach Bolduc will have a goal in his debut. And I just say that because his junior coach was Patrick Waugh, so he's going to face the Islanders. He turns 21 this weekend. Why not add a goal to your weekend resume?
Take it.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that, Dan. Yeah, I'm going to have to take that for
Then
sure.
Celebrate over at Wheelhouse.
Sure, like
There
most
you
of the
go.
Stanley Cup guys
Yeah,
did.
Yeah, he's a blue.
I'm looking forward to his debut.
Me too.
I am.
They need something on 5-on-5. They need some scoring. So looking forward to see what he can do.
Me too. All right, Matthew, what do we got on the text line?
Take it or leave it. One of the Boris 4 will be unsigned come opening day.
I'm going to take that.
So that'll be Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, Cody Bellinger, and Chapman.
I'm going to take it.
I'm going to leave it.
Opening day?
I'm going to leave it. I think that the player will get too anxious and wind up signing maybe not the deal that they want, but they'll be with a team somewhere.
I agree. I just think that would be absolutely terrible if one of the 4 does not sign. And I feel like as the players, there's no way that they would just want to sit back with that. So
I'm sure they're fired up right now and saying, find me a spot. But if there's not a spot with certain big market teams with the kind of contract that they want, they're on the outside looking in until someone gets hurt and there's desperation.
I would, if I were one of those, any of those 4, I would text my boss, Scott Boras, and say, Scott, go all caps, games are starting.
Give me out.
Hey, Scott, don't they prorate this contract for 162? What the? So you're getting a smaller deal, and also you're also not getting the whole deal. My bad.
Yeah. But I would do that now that spring training games are starting.
Take it or leave it. There will be 3 Cardinals with 12 or more wins this season.
Leave it.
I'm going to leave it, and the only reason I say that is that you may have more production than you think of, but wins and losses, does it really matter? Not anymore.
No.
Me personally, I still think there's something with a win or loss. I know I'm old school with that, but that would mean that you'd have to stay in games a little bit longer, and I'm not sure that there's enough of a push to do that across Major League Baseball to have that happen.
Yeah, I'm going to have to leave it too, just because of that aspect. And I do think wins and losses can be important, but it's just more of a team aspect stat. So I don't know if it really matters in the grand scheme of it.
I do love the idea of a pitcher that gives you an opportunity to win a game every time he takes the mound.
I was going to say that their improved bullpen would help you get to 12 wins.
Yes.
To your point, Randy, that they don't stay in very long. And you think about last year, all the leads that were given up. I think 41 different leads that they had and 20-plus blown saves.
Yep.
And having to get 10 or 11 outs is a dicey proposition for the best bullpens in baseball.
Absolutely.
So you got to give those guys got to give more than 5 1/3 or 5 2/3.
Take it or leave it. With all the collusion in baseball and a lot of big names still unsigned, you see a strike coming.
I'm going to leave that. This is not. It's only the Boras guys. It's not everybody else. Sonny Gray got his money, right? He got $75 million. The Cardinals signed their guys early before the meetings even started. So, and you look around at the other big money players and players. Yamamoto signed, and Ohtani got his money, and
the guy signed for $700 million. How can you have collusion when you have $700 million going to a guy?
Yeah. Soler signed. Marcus Stroman signed. The Cubs signed to their pitcher Imanaga. So no, there's. I think that the union could probably, at the behest of Boras, say, "Hey, we've got collusion." Well. Yeah, the collusion might be that you, Scott, are asking for too much and too many years.
That's where I'm going with that.
Yeah. Is it just an internal strike that we don't know about amongst the owners against Scott Boras? Maybe of we don't want to deal with this as much anymore?
Or we want to pay the number that we have placed on a player rather than the number you have placed on the player.
Whether you like it or not, if you're in ownership or you're a GM or president of baseball operations, you have to deal with Scott Boras.
Yeah.
He's got the best players.
Right.
But to your point, Randy, if the numbers don't bear out, then you just move on.
This all started, for those that aren't aware, I'll be 30 seconds here. When Bill DeWitt hired Jeff Luhnow, he wanted to put a price tag on players. He said, okay, for this player's level of production, I want to have a price for this. This is where analytics started with Jeff Luhnow here in St. Louis in 2003. Now every team has their analytics, huge analytics department that has a price tag on every player, and those Scott Boras' guys are overpriced.
The other thing, too, that Luhnow did and that front office did, they were able to find, Matt Adams is a great example. He went to, Slippery Rock. They're looking at him as a catcher. They watched his bat speed. They watched his power and said, this may translate to him being a professional. Trevor Rosenthal was signed because he was playing shortstop and fired one over to first base, which does happen. Sometimes you find those diamonds in the rough, but they looked at different things outside the box that helped them get to this point.
And one of the sad things about analytics is that they became what they believe is so efficient that a guy like Trevor Rosenthal would never get drafted as a pitcher now because he was in the 23rd round. And now you only have 20 rounds.
Just find talent.
Yep.
That's what they want. Find the talent whatever position they're playing.
Matthew, you got one more?
Yeah, I do. Sometimes we get like weird narratives across like Take It or Leave It where like people say the same thing despite the fact that we talk about it a lot and dispel their weird logic. Take It or Leave It. The city ownership group is going to wish they had a bigger stadium after City repeats their success.
Leave it.
Leave it.
Okay, guys, one of the days I went to high school.
Thank you.
And as you guys know, my grades in high school were not great. But I did go to the business class the day we talked about supply and demand. And 22,500 seats is perfect for this franchise because as long as they're competitive, there's going to be great demand and they are going to be able to sell tickets at a premium. They will never wish that they had. And by the way, analytics again, they're very analytical people. They knew exactly what they were doing when they settled on 22,500 seats.
They did, and it's working out really well to them, to your point. Maybe another part of this that this texter could be talking about is attracting bigger competitions. Is that what they're also thinking about, where if you have some availability with, I know we have the Dome, but maybe renovating it a little bit more?
Diego was asked about that in a St. Louis Magazine interview a couple weeks ago, and his reaction was there's a lot of different tournaments around the world, and some of them like having 22.5 stadiums, and some of them like having 60,000. So it's not, you're not necessarily taking yourself out of certain situations. You're just opening the doors on other ones, which I think is a realistic one. And again, I think it's always better to have a packed 22.5 than 30,000 in a 40,000 seat building.
I was just going to say that.
The optics is better, and that makes the product look better.
It's the game day experience, the intimate setting. I think that's part of it, too.
And even if we had built National Car Rental Stadium and it was set up for both an MLS
And you're talking about football and soccer.
Yeah, but the upper deck would have been closed and we would have had a 25,000 seat soccer stadium too for MLS. But if World Cup is debating between Arrowhead Stadium at 80,000 seats and National Car Rental Stadium at 66,000 or 63, whatever it was going to be, they're going to go to the place with the highest capacity. So even if we had our football stadium, we would have lost out in the World Cup to Kansas City.
You guys going to go to the World Cup? You going to find a way to get there?
Yeah.
I would love to.
Yeah.
I would, too.
KC, Chicago, yep.
Be amazing.
It's going to be incredible. Thank you, Matthew.
You're welcome.
Coming up next year on 101 ESPN, we've got our fresh take, and we want you to participate because we're going to do this for us, and then we're going to do it for you at 9:15. But if you could change one outcome in the history of sports, what would it be? Unfortunately, I've got like 10, but I've got one for me, and then I've got one for the world, too.
There you go.
That's next on 101 ESPN. Hey, kids, you've been hearing me talk about Gloria Liu for a long time now with a successful track record of 20 years of being a selling agent in the St. Louis area. She guarantees to provide comfort and stability that you can rest easy, knowing that you're going to get the most money for your home in the least amount of time with the least amount of hassle. Gloria Liu, owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, is our local real estate expert, and her name and her promise says it all. Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Gloria's mastered the home selling promise by guaranteeing upfront and in writing to sell your home at your agreed to price and time frame, or she'll buy it herself, and that's guaranteed. Does your agent compare? Gloria has solutions for every type of home seller. For those of you who want a fast sale with no hassles, Gloria's 24-hour cash offer solution is a great option to consider. No showings, no costly repairs, and you pick the closing date. You always get the highest cash offer bid from Gloria's database of buyers and what she calls her cash offer bid box. If you're thinking of selling, call Gloria Liu at 314-325-6888, 314-325-6888, or visit GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
A fresh perspective on the day's top stories. It's the Opening Drive's Fresh Take.
All right, Danny Mac came up with this one, and it's great. If you could change one outcome in the history of sports, what would it be? And we do invite your mic drops and texts. We'll use your text during the course of this segment, and mic drops at 9:15. If you could change one outcome in the history of sports, what would it be? And there are a lot of outcomes that could be changed. I'm going to... And Dan, you came up with this, so I want to give you the opportunity. But one of the ones that people have talked about for a long time now that had so many tentacles was Drew Brees. And if Drew Brees had signed with the Dolphins and Nick Saban had Drew Brees in Miami, Nick Saban never goes to Alabama. Sean Payton never winds up being the superstar coach in New Orleans. There's so many tentacles to Drew Brees not going to Miami. And I think that's a great one to think about, all the things that could have happened.
Mine was obvious. Don Dinkinger's blown call in 1985. I was a young kid at that point, and it still sticks with me today. It still hurts. The easy one, too, is the Rams relocation. I mean, if you could change that, that changes the complexion of the city. So that would be a couple that come to mind right away.
And I'm going to go with, actually, the football Cardinals relocation.
Yeah.
Gene McNary had plans for a dome in our city where the Hollywood Casino Amphitheater is right now, and it got shot down by Civic Progress. And if we build that big red stadium and McNary was ready to rock and roll, we would have never lost the football Cardinals. And so that's one that I really wish that our city leadership, even then, 40 years ago, I wish that they would have been better, but they weren't, and they still aren't.
Those are really, really good ones. Now, I'm going to go back a little bit further because, Randy, you remember this. So we went to the Yogi Berra documentary that they showed over at the Chase Park Plaza. And first of all, such a great documentary. If you have time, it's on Netflix now, so you can go see it. It's so, so good. But there was one part that I didn't even realize that could have just really changed history, where he wanted $5,000 and the Cardinals only offered him $2,500. What if the Cardinals had signed Yogi Berra and he and Stan would have been together for 17 to 18 plus years, possibly?
Tim McCarver told me a great story about Steve Carlton. And Steve Carlton was going back and forth over a little money contract negotiation. Steve Carlton was walking down the hall to sign the deal that would have kept him in St. Louis and wound up getting traded. He was walking down the hall, according to Tim McCarver, to sign the deal to stay in St. Louis. And you think about how that would change the fortunes of the 1970s Cardinals. It would have been completely different.
It would have.
And what about also one of the more famous trades in NBA history? What if the St. Louis Hawks kept Bill Russell?
Oh, man. That would have changed, number one, our fortunes, right? Because we would have had the most dominant player in the league for years and may have had the dynasty. But it also would have changed the Celtics dynasty. The Celtics wouldn't be what they are today unless the Hawks make that trade with the Celtics for Bill Russell. It would have been awesome. I've got a couple of quick hockey ones, too. Number one, if the Blues don't get smoked in Game 1 against Detroit in the first round of the 1996 playoffs, and Jack Quinn and Mike Keenan don't pull the Gretzky offer off the table. Gretzky he had put his contract on a house here. He had bought Cardinal season tickets. He was all in on St. Louis, Wayne Gretzky was. And then Quinn and Keenan pulled the offer off the table. Just incomprehensible. Over one game, an emotional one game. But here's the other one, and Dan, you'll remember this. In the fall of 1991, during the 1991-92 hockey season, at KMOX, I interviewed Judge Edward Houston, who had awarded Scott Stevens to the Devils in exchange for Brendan Shanahan. He was an Ottawa judge, and he made the decision. And he told me, the judge that made the decision, the Blues had offered Curtis Joseph and Rod Brindamore. And they wanted... New Jersey, Lou Lamoriello wanted a defenseman. And when the Blues offered Curtis Joseph, Lamoriello told Judge Houston, he said, look, I just drafted this goalie named Martin Brodeur in the first round. Right. I don't need a goalie. And I asked Judge Houston, I said, so if the Blues would have offered Paul Cavallini and Rod Brindamore, and he stopped me and he said, that's what I expected they would offer. I would have definitely given Cavallini and Brindamore to New Jersey had the Blues made that offer rather than Joseph.
Stevens was awesome.
And Stevens and Shanahan and that whole team,
yes.
You would have never had to sign Mike Keenan. You would have never dreamed of signing. You would have won cups. Those 3 cups that Jersey got, St. Louis would have got.
Do you think, let's put it this way, it would have helped? You would have been in contention for sure to have a lockdown defenseman like that. It's easy to look at maybe something like the Tuck rule with Tom Brady. I got one just because I'm sentimental at times, but Scott Norwood. Scott Norwood, wide right against the Giants, and they would go to 4 consecutive Super Bowls. They would never win. And remember, by the end of like the 3rd Super Bowl that the Bills went to, the rest of the country was like, enough. We're done watching these guys. I don't want to watch them anymore. So I feel awful for Scott Norwood.
I do too.
Another one that I was just thinking about, this one is a little bit more recent, but Alex Pietrangelo, what if he would have stayed?
Yeah, that would have changed the fortunes of the Blues. And do the Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup last year without Petro?
Petro scored last night for the Golden Knights. What about Tyus Edney against Missouri?
Oh, man.
Coast to coast on that one.
Guard the inbound. Guard the inbound.
Right.
I've got a couple of other football ones. One of the things about Mr. Bidwell was an odd duck, okay? And when Don Coryell left, he really hated the idea of people getting scoops, getting information. And one morning after the 1977 season, when Don Coryell had left, there was a photo in the Globe Democrat of a Big Red interviewee getting off of a plane. And since the Globe Democrat had the story, the interview, according to legend, went practically nowhere because people would have known about this guy interviewing with the football Cardinals. It was a picture of Bill Walsh getting off of the plane.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
If Bill Walsh winds up as the head coach of the football Cardinals rather than Bud Wilkinson, what changes? Holy cow. And then another one, and you talk about changing history. The St. Louis Rams, after the 1999 season, during the playoffs, gave Mike Martz a contract that allowed him to become the head coach of the team when Dick Vermeil retired, whenever Dick Vermeil retired. The reason that the Rams gave that contract to Mike Martz is because another team was prepared to hire him as their head coach. That team was the New England Patriots. And what happens if Martz winds up as the head coach of the Patriots rather than Belichick?
Dynasty still? I don't think so. Armando Galarraga losing his perfect game and seeing Jim Joyce the next day, who was the umpire that messed up the call, who, by the way, I've met him and talked with him. He is a wonderful man with tears in his eyes as they're exchanging the lineup card because he was the home plate umpire the next day, and Armando Galarraga brought out the Detroit lineup card. That whole scene was class, but you know what? He misses the perfect game. Yep. Awful.
So we were only supposed to do one here, and I've done like 10.
Yeah.
But let me give you one more.
Okay.
And this is a back in my day one. In 1985, Mizzou recruited the number one player in the country, Tony Van Zandt, running back from Hazelwood
Who,
Central.
by the way, just went into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame.
Good for him. Well deserved. But Tony Van Zandt was playing in a high school all-star game right before camp was supposed to start for Mizzou in 1985, and he tore up his knee, and he was never the same. If Tony Van Zandt doesn't play in that game, it probably would have changed the entire fortune of Woody Widenhofer's career at Mizzou, and all of those miserable 13 straight losing seasons, they would have stopped because Tony Van Zandt was Billy Sims. He was Tony
incredible.
Dorsett. He was the best running back. He was a program-changing running back.
He was on the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame induction, and you're asked to go up and speak. I felt terrible for him, guys. He got up there and said, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, "I'm sorry." And I felt like saying, you shouldn't be sorry. You had nothing to do with it.
Coming up at 9:15, I know that we're going to discuss this a little bit more, but I want you to tell the story because we're getting texts about this, about Bill Self and what could have happened.
Yeah, we can do that.
With him possibly being Mizzou's head coach.
Absolutely. We'll do that. And then we want your mic drops. Just get to your 101 ESPN app, use the mic drop feature. You can give us one item. If you could change one outcome in the history of sports, what would it be? We'll take your mic drops and we'll use those coming up at 9:15. But coming up next, we're going to talk to Jamie Rivers about the Blues, who are off again today, play the Islanders tomorrow. Rivs next on 101 ESPN. Hey, our friends at Together Credit Union, St. Louis City's official banking partner, are offering you a safe and reliable way to grow your hard-earned money. Certificates of deposit or CDs are an attractive investment for new and experienced investors because the return on your investment is fixed and guaranteed. Right now, Together Credit Union is offering two fantastic CD promotions. The first CD rate option is an 11-month CD term with a 5.40 annual percentage yield. Your second CD rate option, a 19-month CD term with a 5.00 annual percentage yield. Both options require a minimum balance of $1,000. Go to your nearest Together Credit Union branch or visit togethercu.org today to learn more. And while you're there, ask about the City SC debit card, which allows you to get 10% off food and drinks at the stadium, 10% off merch at the Pavilion Team Store, and most exciting, express entry into City SC matches and the MLS openers coming up on Saturday night. So head on over to Together Credit Union to get started. Early withdrawal penalties apply for the CDs, may reduce earnings on the account. Rate offers are accurate as of January 18th, respectively. Rates are subject to change without notice. Other rates and terms available. Membership eligibility required. Federally insured by the NCUA.
everything St. Louis Blues as we head into the Blues Booth. Presented by Boardwalk Hardwood Floors, a proud partner of your St. Louis Blues. Find your perfect new floor at our 4 convenient locations and online at boardwalkhardwood.com.
Brooke, Dan, and Randy, it's the opening drive on 101 ESPN. The Blues play the Islanders tomorrow night, 6 o'clock pregame, 7 o'clock faceoff here on 101 ESPN. And we'll have the call for you. The game will also be on Bally Sports with John Kelly and our colleague here at 101 ESPN, Jamie Rivers, former Islanders star, joining us now. Rivs, good morning. How you doing?
Good, Randy. I appreciate the recognition for my long tenure in New York with the Islanders.
Hey, 75 games. Most people don't play 75 games in the NHL, let alone with one team.
Yeah, that's a good point, I guess. Well played.
Thank you very much. I wanted to talk to you about Patrick Waugh to get things started, because I think his coaching career in Colorado was kind of underrated. Not off to the best start, but what do you think that Patrick Waugh brings to the table for Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders?
Well, intensity. For one thing, intensity and that compete. I mean, Patrick Waugh, he doesn't like to lose at all. Mm-hmm. That mentality, he had it obviously as a goalie, and that's what made him one of the greatest goaltenders of all time. And that's what he has as a coach, talking to people who, have been around him as he's coached junior hockey, and he's won championships at the junior hockey level. And now, being back in the NHL, number one thing for him is the team has to compete, and there has to be intensity, and there has to be a will to win. So for me, that's the one thing that I think of right away when I think of Patrick Waugh.
Well, Jamie, yesterday the big news coming out that Perunovich and Falk are still dealing with injuries, and that means that they will be bringing in Zachary Bolduc. What should we expect to see from Bolduc?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I'm not quite sure yet because, he profiles as an offensive player based upon his stats in junior hockey to where he had over 90 points one season, over 100 points another season. So you're thinking to yourself, okay, this is a goal-scoring type player. But it hasn't been that way so far in the American Hockey League for him. In fact, I think he's only got 23 points so far this season. So it hasn't been like an offensive season for him. But I feel like the Blues are giving him a look because they want to see, what he looks like in the NHL. What does he look like with top-notch players? What can he bring to the table? Because the Blues need some more scoring. You can't just rely on 3-4 guys the whole season to try and carry your team. And so you got a guy like Zachary Bolduc who's sitting there. You might as well give him a look. You don't have access to Snuggerud yet. You don't really have access to Dvorsky. Zach Bolduc was a high draft pick of yours. I think Army wants to see what he has in this player, especially right now, right before the trade deadline. What do we acquire? What do we maybe think of acquiring? And, it gives them a chance to get a look at him.
Jamie, the Blues need secondary scoring. You just mentioned that. It's only been, in my estimation, and watching you would know better, but it's been the top line and Jake Neighbors. You look at that third line, it hasn't been great. Kasperi Kapanen hasn't been where they need him. Sammy Blake, probably the same thing. So give me a couple of names that we're not thinking about that could help in this stretch run as we head to the deadline on March 8th.
Oh, a couple of names that are available out there?
No. On the Blues that could propel them here in secondary scoring outside of the top line and Jake Neighbors. Is there anybody that you're seeing that you go, you know what, he's starting to look a little bit better, and maybe that's one of the players we can look to?
Well, the guys that I'd like to see, Kapanen is certainly one of them. He's blessed with a ton of speed. He works really hard. He seems to create the offensive opportunities that are out there. He just has had no finish, which obviously that's the key to it all, is you have to be able to finish off the play. But I think that Kasperi Kapanen, if he was able to put a few pucks in, might get that confidence going and find the back of the net. And then another guy who's kind of sort of been scoring off and on, lukewarm at times, is Brandon Saad. I think that this is a guy you brought in, specifically because he's been a perennial 20-goal scorer. You need him to be that guy right now. Over the last handful of games, at times, Brandon Saad has been playing, third and sometimes fourth line minutes out there with no power play opportunity, and that's not the best use of him. And I'm not criticizing Drew Bannister right now. This for me is more on the player that the player hasn't forced the coaching staff to play him more. So I think that the biggest difference right now is you're getting very little offense out of Kapanen, out of Blais, and you're not getting a lot out of Brandon Saad, Kevin Hayes. Kevin Hayes hasn't scored in a long time. If one or two of those guys can just change their games just a bit and start to get on the board just every so often, even if they're creating goals, not even scoring them, that changes a lot for the Blues.
You mentioned Jimmy Snuggerud, and Minnesota has not had the best year, and they play their last couple of games this weekend against Michigan, and they could get knocked out of the NCAA tournament relatively early. Do you think that we'll see Snuggerud at the NHL level this year if Minnesota does get knocked out?
I'm not sure. And the reason being is because, and Cardinals fans will love this one, because, you start the clock on the contract then. And, that's the difficult part. I think if anything, I think you'll see him at the American Hockey League level. I think they'll want him to go to the American League and just play with some men and play as long as possible with them. If they make the playoffs, great. If they go on a playoff run. And then I think that the team focuses on Jimmy Snuggerud being a part of things maybe next year, depending on how he looks at training camp and things like that. Because obviously, Randy, as you know, you can be as good as anybody at college or junior. When you make that jump to the NHL, it's a different game. And sometimes it takes some of these younger guys a little bit to find their game within that group.
So I'm thinking about the trade deadline on March 8th, and if I'm Army, I don't know what kind of team I got. It's inconsistent. I don't want to give up the future. I don't want to sit there and say, well, we're just going to all of a sudden cast off all these players and not give us a chance. Do you think I'm looking at it the right way, Jamie?
Yeah, I'm not touching a thing. If I'm Army, I'm looking at this team going, look, you guys have been up and down and all around all season long, and you find yourselves right there in the mix. I think I'm going to ride it out with this team because couple things. If I start trading off pieces and the team then misses the playoffs, I don't know. For me, I would feel like I've denied my team an opportunity to make the playoffs by trading away pieces that could help us. I also feel, for me personally, I'd feel like the fan base deserves at least a playoff series. And also, my ownership probably wouldn't mind the dollars from a playoff series as well. So why not ride it out with the guys we have and hopefully make the playoffs? As far as trading people off, I've said this a couple of times. What are you getting in return? Like, honestly, the guys that you could trade to get something back, they all have no trade clauses. So there's no guarantee that you'll be able to trade those players. And the players that are unrestricted free agents that, like last year's situation, well, trade them off for draft picks. Okay, what's the highest draft pick you're really going to get with your UFAs? A third rounder? The highest? It doesn't really equate to an organizational transforming player coming through that draft at some point. So for me, I've said it several times, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. I would just ride it out with this group and see what happens.
And Rivs, one other part of this is that you do still need players to play. So now with Justin Falk on long-term injured reserve, it appears he's going to be out for a while. That might reduce your desire to move a guy like Scandella because you need bodies to play defense.
Yeah, you're right. And it really is a crap injury because Justin Falk's a big part of this defensive core and the team overall. And you got Matthew Kessel, who's come up and played great. You got Callie Rosen, who has played solid. But, yeah, you start trading off more pieces, and it totally affects everything. And, in fact, it can affect the development of your young defenseman like Matthew Kessel. He's playing alongside Torrey Krug right now. They have played very well together for almost the entire time he's been up. Now, all of a sudden, let's say you trade a Torrey Krug and a Marco Scandella. Now what's left in your defensive core? Matthew Kessel now becomes a main cog. He becomes defenseman number 3 and a lot of pressure on him, and maybe that changes things. So I think that there's something to be said for these guys continuing to develop alongside current NHL players that can help them. And we got those guys on the fence right now, and I wouldn't touch anything.
What do you think Pavel Buchnevich would get you in the appetite that some teams may have for him? He hasn't been good lately, but what do you think the appetite would be for opposing teams to look at Buchnevich?
Well, contenders would love him because he would solidify any team. Pick any team that's a contender in the NHL right now. you add Pavel Buchnevich, and their chances just got better. And it's simply because he's an all-around player. He plays penalty kill, power play, play with the goalie pulled either way. He can play physical. He's smart. So he's a great piece to add. Now, as far as what your return would be on that, I think you could get a first-rounder for Pavel Buchnevich. I think you can get maybe a prospect at the same time. And it all depends on crunch time. Danny, it's like you come down to the trade deadline, you might have 2 or 3 teams that are interested. Then you might have 2 teams that are really interested. And now the offers start, and some teams will start to offer up stupid stuff. And those are the ones you're hoping for. And so Army will be patient and wait and see, who ends up offering the most. And then he'll have a decision to make, whether he trades Pavel Buchnevich because it helps his team in the near future with draft picks or young players, or whether he wants to take a run at re-signing Pavel Buchnevich because he sees him as a piece of the puzzle for this team a few years down the road.
Yeah, teams get desperate. And the other thing, too, is that you maybe as an opposing team feel like all of a sudden I get a jump out of this guy. Change of scenery. He's in the playoffs. He knows he's going to be with a contender. And I would assume some teams look at it that way, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anytime that a team can acquire a player from another team that maybe is not going to make the playoffs or certainly is not going to make the playoffs one way or the other, there's a bit of a bump there. Player's excited. He's going to a new team, has an opportunity to win more games. And especially if he goes to a contending team, now that player starts to think about deep playoff runs. And, you'd be crazy to think that players don't think about maybe even the possibility of sipping champagne out of the cup at times. So it can really reinvigorate a player.
Jamie Rivers, you're the man. We appreciate it. We will hear you this afternoon at 2 on the fast lane. Have a great day and enjoy the nice weather outside.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot, and I will.
We'll see you later. That's Jamie Rivers, who, by the way, he's super prepared for the show, so he'll be here at noon. So he's not going to get a ton of time to spend outside. But
no. At least there's a window over there next to him in the office.
That's a good thing. Yeah, can't open it, but at least he can look outside.
He will be super prepared. That whole show usually gets here at about 10:30.
Yeah.
And they start show prep, and away they go.
Yeah, they do. I think you might be thinking of the
BK and Ferrari.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Coming up next, we've got the fight. Do you need a fighter, Matthew?
Yep.
Well, Randy, Tim didn't go into the Hall of Fame yesterday, so yeah, we need a fighter.
Okay, we need a fighter for the fight, and if you would like to participate, text in 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO with your name and the word fight, and perhaps you will fight me next on 101 ESPN. We're almost to the rainy season here in St. Louis, and that's why you need to get in touch with gutterpros.com, because when that hard rain comes and you have water coming over the side of your gutters, it's kind of unsightly, and you don't need to have that. At Gutter Pros, they'll recommend the perfect gutters for your home. Your gutters might be too small, and they have all different sizes of gutters, all different kinds of gutters, and they'll make sure that the water goes where they tell it to go, so that it goes down the downspout like it's supposed to. Whether it is your home or maybe it's a commercial job, they have everything that you need to make your facility look fantastic. They'll do soffit and fascia for you. If you have trees, you need some leaf protection, they'll do that for you as well at Gutter Pros. Set up your appointment today at gutterpros.com, and they'll come out and they'll provide you a very low pressure estimate. They'll show you what they're going to do. They'll tell you what's best for your home. Their general and sales manager, born right here in St. Louis, and is a great St. Louisan, and he'll do great work for you. They're A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, 4.9 out of 5 stars on their reviews. It's gutterpros.com.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Last night, St. Louis City gets a big win over the Houston Dynamo, 2-1 in the first leg of the first round of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They will face off against Houston next Tuesday in the second leg of the tie. They will also kick off the MLS season on Saturday at City Park when they host Real Salt Lake. St. Louis Blues not in action tonight. Another day off today. They will be facing off against the Islanders on Thursday evening, 7 p.m. puck drop. You can catch the pregame show right here on 101 ESPN, your home for the St. Louis Blues, starting at 6 p.m. If you want to hear more Blues talk, go back to our Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers podcast and listen to Jamie River talk it over with Randy, Danny, and Brooke. That is your Sports Center update, brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome to the fight. In the red corner, Average Joe Listener. And in the blue corner, the undisputed king of morning drive. Please welcome Randy Carricker.
Welcome back to the opening drive. Brooke, Dan, and Randy here, and it is time for the fight. And our fighter today is Adam. Adam, how are you doing?
How are you guys?
We're doing good. Is this your first time facing Randy in the fight?
First time, yes.
Nervous? Excited? Scared? Excited? Any words of advice for him, Dan?
Well, I can just tell in his voice he's excited. So I'm ready to go. You're ready to go with question 1.
Yep. All right, Adam. Question number 1. Which Cardinals legend has his number retired despite the fact that he played before the Cardinals players had numbers on their jerseys? Is it Dizzy Dean, Tip O'Neill, or Rogers Hornsby?
Boy. Let's go Hornsby.
All right, question 2. The St. Louis Blues made it to the Western Conference Finals in 2016. What team did they lose against? Was it the LA Kings, the Colorado Avalanche, or the San Jose Sharks?
It was the Sharks, I believe.
All right. Adam, I see that you're playing with a lot of confidence, and you should be. Question 3, please.
6 World Series winning teams have come back from a 3-1 series deficit. Who did it most recently? Was it the Royals, the Red Sox, or the Cubs?
Let's go with the Cubs.
All right. Question 4. There are 4 players who have caught a Super Bowl touchdown for 2 different teams. But which 21st century wide receiver is the only one to lose both Super Bowls? Was it Deion Branch, Mushin Muhammad, or Emmanuel Sanders?
Let's go Emmanuel Sanders.
All right. Final answer?
Yes.
All right. Let's go bring in Randy. How do you feel that you did, Adam?
I feel okay.
Yeah?
Not great.
Even against a guy like Megamind, you feel okay? I like that. I like the confidence. That's what we need this morning.
Confidence is key. Oh, here comes Randy. Randy, say hi to Adam.
Adam, good morning. How you doing?
Randy, I'm great.
Good. Thanks for listening. Thanks for playing.
All right, Randy, you ready for question number 1?
I'm ready.
Which Cardinals legend has his number retired despite the fact that he played before Cardinals players had numbers on their jerseys?
I am going to go, I think, with Rogers Hornsby. Rogers Hornsby is who I'll go with.
Final answer?
Yes, sir.
All right, question 2. The Blues lost in the Western Conference Finals in 2016. Who beat them?
That would have been the San Jose Sharks in 2016, Western Conference Finals. Game 5 or 6 out there. Lost in San Jose. David Backes' last game with the Blues. San Jose Sharks.
6 World Series winning teams have come back from a 3-1 series deficit. Who did it most recently?
Well, the Cubs did it in 2016. Let's see. Did we have somebody subsequently do that in the last few years? 2017. I don't even remember who won the World Series. 2018 was the Red Sox. They didn't have to do it. 2019 was the Nationals. They didn't have to do it. 2020 was the Doyers. They didn't have to do it. 21, Braves, no. 22. I'm going to go back, even though I don't remember who won the 2017 World Series. That's pretty bad, isn't it? But I'm going to go with the Cubs in 2016.
Question 4. There are 4 players who have caught a Super Bowl touchdown for 2 different teams. But which 21st century wide receiver is the only one to lose both Super Bowls?
21st century
wide receiver that caught a couple of Super Bowl TDs, but the wide receiver is the only one to lose both Super Bowls.
Well, Ricky Prohl definitely did that, right? He did it for the Rams, and he also did it for the Panthers against the Patriots. So I'm going to go with Ricky Prohl.
Okay. We may have a winner because I think Randy, even though the options were not given with Ricky, but I'll leave it up to Rocc to see what he wants to do here.
2001 Rams against the Patriots, 2003 Panthers against the Patriots.
Yes, you are correct on that one. I was going through it, and I was like, Ricky Prohl won a Super Bowl. But he didn't catch the touchdown in the Super Bowl. He was right, which is, wires got crossed on that one. So you are correct on that one. The listener Adam did not get that one correct, but he did not have Ricky Proehl as an option. I was going for Musin Muhammad, who played for the Bears and the Panthers on that one. He did not have the Ricky Proehl option. You got that one right. He did have Musin Muhammad as an option, didn't get that one correct. And so because there was two options available, there was a correct option available, which he did not get, and you pulled the correct option just completely out of your hat there. I'm going to go...
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
The winner and still champion of the fight, Randy Carricker. The Fight is driven by CarShield. Plans to fit any budget. Visit carshield.com today.
And you know what? The fans could rightfully... We might just have Adam on again tomorrow because he might deserve another chance. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve a win on this one. I'm saying he might deserve another chance tomorrow because the last question was a slight little stipulation out of play because, again, Ricky Proehl did win a Super Bowl, but he didn't catch the touchdown in the Super Bowl that he won with the Rams. He also did catch one with the Panthers and did lose that one. So let's go through the questions and the answers there. Which Cardinals legend has his number retired? It is, in fact, Rogers Hornsby. The Blues lost in the 2016 Western Conference Finals to the San Jose Sharks. It is 6 World Series winning teams that have come back for a 3-1 series deficit. The 2020 Dodgers had to come back from a 3-1 series deficit in the NLCS, but not in the World Series. This is, in fact, the Cubs over the Indians. Back in 2016, the 17 World Series, by the way, was the Astros over the
that's
Dodgers.
Why I forgot it.
That whole thing. And then the number 4, there are 4 players who have caught a Super Bowl TD for 2 different teams. It's Jerry Rice, Rob Gronkowski, Ricky Proehl, and Musin Muhammad. Of course, like I said, the Super Bowl loss for Ricky Proehl and the win for Ricky Proehl threw me off on that one. So Ricky Proehl is the correct answer. Musin Muhammad is also correct answer. Unfortunately, Adam did say Emmanuel Sanders on that question. So I'll leave it up to the Deus on this one, whether or not Adam gets another chance, but I'm definitely not going to give him a win on today.
I'm good with justice for Adam.
Let's go. Okay, justice for Adam. Adam, I apologize. That's on me. We'll join you. We'll talk to you on the fight tomorrow. Will you get a reset as you go for your first win?
It sounds good.
Thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you.
I'm still trying to catch up on the first question.
Rogers Hornsby?
Yeah, I got them all. But I did not have Ricky Proehl.
No.
Yeah.
So
there was a lot of things going on in that fight.
Can you read that? Just read the wording for that question again, please.
So there are 4 players who have caught a Super Bowl touchdown for 2 different teams. Which 21st century wide receiver is the only one to lose both Super Bowls?
It does.
Okay,
Yeah, so it
which-
connects the
okay.
touchdowns to the Super Bowl.
Got it.
So that's
Yeah, that's the way,
100%
yeah.
my mistake. I saw St. Louis and Carolina, and I was like, well, he won Super Bowl with St. Louis, so he doesn't qualify in this little trivia question, and that's 100% my mistake. I apologize to Adam.
All right, no worries. Coming up next year on 101 ESPN, college football has approved their new college football playoff format, but is that 5-7 plan the best way to go? That's next on 101 ESPN.
Hey, it's Danny Mack, and I want to tell you about Stewart's American Mortgage. If you're someone who is looking to purchase a home, refi, looking to consolidate some of that ugly credit card debt, maybe you don't know exactly what direction to go, let me make it easy for you. That's Stewie from Stewart's American Mortgage, and he joins us on this Wednesday morning. Stewie, how about closing a customer in 10 days?
Danny, when you're dealing with buyers and sellers, the sellers are looking for three things. Number one, they want their money. Number two, they want it quickly. And number three, they don't want to wait around for 3 weeks to see if the loan's going to go through. We had an ESPN listener that went ahead and submitted a contract. His contract was $10,000 below two other contracts that got submitted in. The difference was we said we can close it in 10 days. So 10 days, I don't have to wait around 3 weeks to see if the other loans are going to get approved. I'm going to take your contract. We got them closed in 10 days. They're in their house. Bam, they pay less. And that's how you make it happen.
Stewie, thanks for helping our listeners. He is your guy. Stewart is your guy. He makes it easy. Any questions on rates, the industry, the trends, give Stewart a call. Call him directly on his personal cell phone. That number, 314-324-4440, 314-324-4440, or you can Google the Bagel Loan.
NMLS number 226715.
College football has announced a new college football playoff plan. Now, in most years, the 5-7 format, it's the 5 conference champions and the 7 next highest ranked teams. In most years, the format will assure the conference champions from the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and ACC a spot in the playoff, along with the highest-ranked group of 5 conference champion. The college football playoff intentionally won't refer to the group of 5 in its description of the format, though, because there's a chance that a champion from one of the Power 4 conferences finishes ranked below the top champion from the American Athletic, Conference USA, Mountain West, Sun Belt, or Mid-American. The problem that college football has right now is they have a Pac-12 that's a Pac-2. And so they're going to allow right now that champion at the moment, and this is all going to come to fruition at some point. But the Pac-12 is causing problems because they're a Power 5, but they really aren't a Power 5.
My reaction to this was congratulations to the SEC and Big 10 because they're about to dominate this new format. Isn't that what you guys thought?
Yeah, absolutely. I also think the middle or the low man on the totem pole gets X'd out of this. Like, what do you say to Liberty if they would have gone undefeated this year, but they're not ranked in the top 12? I'm also curious, guys, what happens to Notre Dame?
Yes.
Not affiliated with a conference, so where do they fall in this?
They just have to be ranked in the top 12.
Yeah.
So even, say theoretically, that Notre Dame finishes as the number 1 team in the country, they can only be seated at the highest as the 5th seed. Then they'll have to win 4 straight games to get into the national championship or to get the national championship.
Doesn't make a lot of sense. And I've read some things on this where it's like a 2-year deal with this in kind of a feeling out process, and then after the 2 years are up, they can reassess how this has worked. But to your point, Brooke, it's got SEC and Big 10 written all over it. And maybe that's the right way to do it. I mean, you're expanding, it's billions of dollars in the TV contract, but you're expanding the playoff, which will take you into mid-January going up against the NFL. So if you love football, you're going to get plenty of it in January with high-stakes games.
And the reality of the situation is this will be more like the NFL playoffs, and the one and done allows for the upset here or there. Now, the problem, as Brooke, you mentioned, is going to be for a Notre Dame or anybody that doesn't finish in the top 4. It's going to have to win 4 games. You better, especially if you are an SEC team or a Big 10 team that doesn't win the conference, you better have a lot of depth, and you better be a really good football team.
Don't they also have to make sure that they get the ranking system really correct with this as well?
Absolutely. I still think, though, that the big look, let's be honest here. The big teams that are going to be a part of this in the top 12, more than likely, are going to come from the SEC, and they're going to come from the Big Ten.
Yeah, out of the 12, wouldn't you think that 8 will come from the SEC and Big Ten?
Absolutely, at least. I mean, at least. I think, what did the SEC finish in the top 25 this year? They had, 7 teams, something like that? 6 teams?
And of next year's preseason top 25, they have 10 of them. The SEC does.
Yeah. So you're going to see plenty of the SEC. You're going to see plenty of the Big Ten.
And I'm fine with that. Now, if you're the Big 12, if you don't like it, you just got to play better. Now, but what do you have now? You've got Arizona State. You've got Colorado, and who else came over? Whoever it was that came over from the Pac-12. But then you've got Baylor, and you've got Texas Tech. You've got Kansas State, Oklahoma State. The reality of the situation is when you look at the Big 12, how would the best, now that Texas and Oklahoma are gone, how would the best Big 12 program compete on an annual basis in the SEC or the Big Ten?
And they got blown out by Texas this year in their conference championship game, talking about Oklahoma State. I just think you're still going to have the big teams in it, and when we get down to it, a lot of people won't care anyway. It'll be whoever's 13 will go, oh, we deserve to be top 12. But, for the majority, if you got 12 teams, you're probably going to figure out the 12 best teams in the country.
And this is good for Mizzou right now because last year, if they would have had the 12-team format, Mizzou would have been in it, and Eli Drinkwitz has to maintain. But I've always thought that if you had a 12-team playoff, somebody's going to complain. The 13th team is going to be complaining about not being in the top 12. If you're the number 13 team, what realistically is your chance to win the national championship in a playoff anyway?
Slim to none.
Yeah.
So basically, you don't want to finish in the rankings anywhere below 5th in the seeding,
right,
and 5th in the rankings. That's not what you're wanting to do. I just think it's really interesting because the Big Ten commissioner, he was wanting more of the 16-team playoff format. And then also Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, he's mentioned on numerous occasions that he wants a world with no automatic berths at all.
My guess would be, just off the top of my head, you're going to have a minimum of 6 from the Big Ten and the SEC.
Yeah.
They'll have half the teams.
And I do believe, all due respect to Greg Sankey, who's done a magnificent job.
He's been awesome.
There should be a real reward for the Big 12 and the ACC champions to win their leagues. It's college football. It's not just the SEC and the Big Ten. If Clemson wins their conference in some of the years that they had under Dabo, they should be in the hunt and they should be a top seed. Same thing for a great Big 12 team. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, would this push Notre Dame to get affiliated with a conference to have a better shot to get in the top 12?
Yeah, and especially if it's the ACC, because with all due respect to what Clemson did 5 years ago, really Notre Dame should win with their resources. They should win the ACC every year. The problem is, though,
the TV contract.
Exactly. They've got their own TV deal.
Yep.
And that those resources, all of a sudden, you have to share them.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happens with. I can't imagine them going anywhere but independent because NBC wants them, Notre Dame, as much as Notre Dame wants the NBC.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So ultimately, I'm happy with the 5-7 format because I believe the best team in the country is going to have an opportunity. Might not win the championship, but it is going to be given an opportunity. Last year, we could reasonably say that the best team in the country was not given an opportunity to win.
But there will always be controversy because the committees, of course, will still be involved with this. I think that maybe some people were thinking that this would kind of take it out of the committee's hands a little bit more, but they're still going to be heavily involved on deciding the ranking system with this.
You're right, but we aren't going to have a Georgia left out. We aren't going to have the best team left out when we have a 12-team playoff. And that's, to me, the biggest thing that they needed to have.
Mm-hmm.
That's Brooke. That's Dan. I'm Randy. Coming up on 101 ESPN, we've got our rush hour reset. Interesting comments last night from the Mizzou head basketball coach, Dennis Gates, who's none too happy with the way his team is performing. That's next on 101 ESPN.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here, and this year we decided it was time to make a major upgrade to our home by updating our bathroom. We have a house in U City that we absolutely love. It's over 100 years old, but we don't exactly love our main bathroom. But this is really just the first time we've done a major project like this, and we weren't really sure where to start. So we reached out to one of our great sponsors here at 101 ESPN, and that is E&B Granite. E&B Granite's team visited our house for a free consultation, and they sketched out an amazing vision of how to really transform our bathroom. My favorite part of working with E&B Granite was stopping by their showroom to explore their large selection of in-stock custom countertops and cabinet options. Jen was the one who has been working with us, and she has been fantastic. She already had so many great ideas for us that fit within our budget, and that's what they've been doing there over at E&B Granite, turning visions into realities for over 20 years. So schedule your free consultation by calling 314-645-9300 or go online at embgranite.com or stop by their showroom today, and make sure you mention that I sent you.
Recapping the biggest sports stories of the day on the opening drive with a Rush Hour Reset.
It's 9:03 in St. Louis. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. With Brooke Grimsley and Danny Mack, I'm Randy Carricker. We're going to be taking your mic drops coming up at 9:15. If you could change one outcome in the history of sports, what would it be? Get your phone, go to the 101 ESPN app, and tell us, if you could change one outcome in the history of sports, what would it be? Last night, CONCACAF Champions Cup opener, St. Louis City SC over Houston Dynamo. 2-1 was the final. The winner in the 90th minute by Jose Kachima, the newcomer who was just signed yesterday. That away, Jose.
I love the call, too, that Joey had where he said, "No way, Jose," after that one. I mean, what a timeline. We discussed this earlier, but we just have to run through this again because it's just absolutely crazy. Signed with City SC, as you mentioned, Randy, that morning, and then makes his MLS debut, subbing into the game at the 86th minute, and then he scores his first MLS goal and match winner at the 90th minute, a dagger. Of course, it was a big moment there to help City SC win their first CONCACAF championship match. That was just such a special moment to see play out in that way.
It was very cool. And now City will travel to Houston for the second leg of the first round, and they'll have a 2-1 lead going in. The first tiebreaker is away goals, so City just needs to avoid a 1-0 Houston result to advance to the next round, and they'll open the MLS season at City Park on Saturday versus Real Salt Lake.
And Tim Parker continuing.
Oh, TP.
And I asked this earlier. I think that, and you know, Dan, you're right about this. Not legendary status just yet, but maybe possibly a St. Louis sports legend being born just because of everything that he's done so far to really help this City SC history being made.
Not sure about a legend.
Legend-ish.
Legendary moments.
Yes.
Legendary moments. You know, he scores the first goal in 3 major games for the franchise. It was the first ever game, the playoff game, and then last night. Not too bad to put on the resume. And as you said, Randy, that might be a answer to a fight question, because I know you love soccer, you love the WNBA, and you love racing.
Somebody else will be doing the fight in 10 years, and that becomes a question. College basketball last night, tough one for the schools in our area. St. Louis U falls to Duquesne 81-66 in Pittsburgh. And number 5 Tennessee takes care of Mizzou 72-67. The game was never that close. Mizzou, they had a chance. It was 46-46 with 12:08 left, and then Tennessee kind of pulled away.
Mizzou was up by 9 at the 16-minute mark of the second half. So I mean, you knew what was coming if you were a Mizzou fan watching the game, because you're a Mizzou fan and it's this year's team. So you knew what was inevitable.
And you wonder if Coach Dennis Gates knew what was coming too.
The big picture of it all was our inability. We got to do a better job. We got to do a better job drawing fouls. I think we suck at it. We're terrible. We're terrible at drawing fouls, and we got to do a better job. Can y'all write all that in there, right? Y'all can write that in there, right? Make sure you don't bleep that out.
Sorry, Coach.
Had to bleep it out so that we could keep our license. But you could have said freaking and it would have had the same effect.
Yep.
You know, that's as animated in a postgame that I've heard him. So frustration is definitely hit with the Mizzou basketball team. They only drew, by the way, 17 fouls in the game.
Yeah.
That was it. And I get it. I mean, he could very easily go winless in the SEC conference play. Arkansas, Florida, Ole Miss, Auburn, LSU left. They will be the underdogs in all those games. And you wonder, you know, it was like 47-47, Rock, I think that's right, at one point. But they, decent to better teams at home, figure out ways to win. And they're just not good enough to do that.
And also the depth. Sorry. No, go ahead. No, I was just going to say the depth that Tennessee has. You knew they were going to be able to come back.
Yeah, I was just going to point out, from that 46-46 tie, over the next 6 minutes, I think it was, Tennessee would go 7 for 7 from the line, and Mizzou would not get a foul called against them.
So there you go.
So like that's when things started changing, and that's exactly what happened. Is they couldn't draw fouls, and they were fouling Tennessee like crazy.
Meanwhile, the Cardinals will start spring training Grapefruit League action on Saturday down in Florida, and they'll play split squads, and they'll have 2 young left-handers, one in each game. They'll have Zach Thompson starting one game and Matthew Liberatore starting another as they build what will hopefully be a competition for a 6th starter spot until Steven Matz gets hurt.
I think that's the right thing to... Whoa. Back it up. Until you... What did you just say? Because I was agreeing with you until I heard the Steven Matz part. First of all... Randy, come on. This will be a fully healthy season for Steven Matz. We are going to wish for that. We are hoping for that.
Put it in
We're
the
going to put
universe.
the good vibes into the universe,
Like
that it's
it.
going to be a fully healthy season for Steven Matz. But I do like the idea of starting the season with a six-man rotation just because of how daunting the schedule is early on. It makes a lot of sense. And I'm interested to see how this competition goes between Zach Thompson and Matthew Liberatore, because I do like Zach Thompson as your 6th starter. But are they going to go with Matthew Liberatore possibly if they do this, just because he can be more of a swingman option?
We talked about it earlier. There's just not a lot of competition, at least on the surface, and what they've got. They've got their 1 through 9. They've got a starting rotation. You got bullpen starts potentially coming out of this with Liberatore and Thompson, who probably will go... I'd say 20, 25 pitches, or if they can get 2 innings under their belt. But they're going to be pushed this spring to see what they got.
Yeah, and it's nice to know that they've got that sort of depth, right? That they can have this competition. Now, they've thought they've had this sort of depth in the past. Hopefully, this will be quality. It's one thing to have
quality
depth.
depth.
Yeah, quality depth.
That's
one
right.
thing to have depth and one thing to have quality depth. So hopefully, the abilities of people like Liberatore and Zach Thompson will step to the fore, and we'll get what we reasonably expect out of the seasoned starting pitchers that they signed.
See, I'm with Brooke. I like Zach Thompson. I've liked him since he got called up. I know he had a rough stretch there last year. And would he start? Would he be in the bullpen? Just let him start. Let's stretch him out and let the competition play out. And both need to be stretched out because, to your point, Randy, the depth has got to come from the starter's role in the minor leagues if somebody gets hurt, or ineffective. That's the other thing to look at, too.
And the bullpen's going to, either way, the bullpen's going to be used heavily because that's just the way the Cardinals roll. All right, that's your Rush Hour Reset here on 101 ESPN. Coming up, we talked earlier about our ideas of if you could change one outcome in the history of sports, what would it be? And we want to hear from you. Your mic drops with the 101 ESPN app. Your texts to the Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646, 314-399-YO-HO. We want to hear your changes in a sports outcome. Next on 101 ESPN. Hey, I'm going to make my way over to Mentality this afternoon. And if you don't know what Mentality does, guys, if you pass your 30th birthday, you're going to have your level of energy drop. It's just a natural thing that's happened because your level of testosterone drops. At Mentality, they have an FDA-approved testosterone treatment that will restore your energy. It'll restore your ability to get through a day without being tired and worn out. It'll restore your ability to walk 18 holes of golf or get through a workout or maybe even just coach your kids' teams when you're done with work. At Mentality, what they're going to do is bring you in to one of their great clinics in Chesterfield or South County and find out where your testosterone level is through a complete panel of your blood work. When they do, they're going to restore your testosterone level to what it was, the normal level that you experienced when you were in your 20s. It'll make you feel so much better. And they're going to work with your insurance company to have as little out-of-pocket expense for Mentality as possible. It can make a huge difference in your life as it has in thousands of St. Louisans' lives. Get to Mentality. Get started now at lowtusa.com. One item that if we could change one outcome in the history of sports, what would it be? My number one is the powers that be in St. Louis back in the late 80s, 1986, 87, allowing Gene McNary to build the Dome Stadium to keep the football Cardinals in St. Louis. That's my one. That's my top one.
I had like a top two because they were kind of throwbacks, but just thinking about the more famous trade in NBA history, one of the most famous trades in NBA history, what if the St. Louis Hawks didn't trade Bill Russell to the Celtics? Imagine what that would have played out. Also, what if the Cardinals had signed Yogi Berra? You would have Yogi Berra and Stan the Man for such a long time together. Not that the Cardinals already don't have such a rich history, but could you imagine having that together?
Amazing.
I would go Don Dinkinger, 1985, blown call at first base. The picture, I can see it vividly. The Todd Worrell catch, foot on the bag. That's an out, man.
What are the rules? Let's get a mic drop from Adam, who joins us here on 101 ESPN.
What if Kiprios doesn't take out Fuhr? What if John Casey is able to stop that Yzerman shot? What if Bill Self doesn't leave Illinois for Kansas? What if Coach Majerus has more time with SLU?
All
very
great
good
ones. Those are really good.
A lot of people think that if Majerus would have lived for another year coaching SLU, that they would be in the Big East right now.
I wonder how far they would have gone with the group of kids that he had coming back. I mean, a lot of underclassmen that were very good, got a lot of playing time, and they were so well coached, clearly. It is interesting. It's interesting to think what might have happened.
Yeah.
What could have been? Bill Self, that one. What do you think would have happened?
And Quinn Snyder are both in a Kansas City airport hotel in 2000, and Mike Alden goes down and asks Bill Self if offered the job, would he take it? And Self said, well, I got to go talk to my kids at Tulsa first. And 45 minutes later, Alden comes back and says, we gave the job to Quinn Snyder. So what if they do? What if Self says, yeah, I'll take the job? How different would the fortunes of Mizzou basketball been and the fortunes of KU basketball been?
Sure. Would have changed everything.
Yeah.
Another mic drop.
Let's get to Sam here on 101 ESPN.
The outcome I would change probably has to be the most devastating sports moment of my entire life, and probably the most devastating sports moment in the history of Mizzou. Lost to Norfolk State. You know, you change the outcome of that. That team was good enough. Who knows? They could have gone on a run.
I think you got to get in line with some tough Mizzou ones. Richmond, and that one.
Yeah.
Those all come to mind right now.
That's not even the toughest one within a span of like 7 years. The BC, the loss to Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game is the number one or number two 21st century loss for Mizzou's sporting program. You beat Oklahoma, you play in a BCS national title game. Even if you don't win that game, you play in a BCS national title game if you win that game. That's a first round loss. A lot of things can happen in the tournament there. It's either Oklahoma or Auburn, because those are title game berths at the breadth there for Missouri.
You know, one that we keep getting in as what about if Jordan Bennington didn't get hurt against Colorado?
Also, the bubble team, too. What happens with the Blues who had to play in the bubble? They were playing so well prior to COVID hitting. Did they go back-to-back?
Right. And let's go back to Adam, because a lot of people believe, and I'm one of them, that if Fuhr doesn't get hurt, that Blues team probably wins the Stanley Cup.
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
And Casey, man, I blamed John Casey for a long time, and then during COVID, NHL Network was showing that game. Man, that was a good shot by Yzerman.
It was unbelievable.
It was unbelievable. I mean, right over the shoulder. Nobody could have stopped that. Let's get to Richard next on 101 ESPN.
The one thing I definitely would have changed in sports history would have been the Malcolm Butler interception at the goal line. Seattle should have gave the ball to Marshawn Lynch. He's an absolute train, absolute beast. It's a huge mistake by Pete Carroll.
And if that happens, then all of a sudden Brady and Belichick's luster dims a little bit, because they could have lost a lot of Super Bowls. They could have lost the one against the Rams. They could have lost the one against the Panthers. There was another one that was close in addition to, the Atlanta 28-3, right? The Malcolm Butler interception and the call by Seattle definitely would have changed the course of history.
You were talking about Mizzou. What about the 5-down game?
Yeah.
Colorado.
And Bob Stull had things going there.
Yep.
They were ready to take off. Colorado wound up winning the national championship.
Against Notre Dame that year.
Yep. And it wasn't, by the way, and Dan, you'll remember this, it wasn't just the fact that they gave them the 5th down, but Charles Johnson didn't score on 5th down either.
His knee hit.
Yeah.
He was short of the goal line. If you had instant replay, you would have had him short of the goal line, and that was it.
Yeah.
But even the markers had it wrong. When they looked over at the markers, some of those were wrong, I believe, as they looked over to the sideline to say what down it was.
Yeah, it's just incredible. Let's get to a few more texts. The double doink for Bears fans, yeah. Against the Eagles, and a chip shot, easy field goal.
I've got a good one for Cardinal fans. Nelson Cruz making a catch in right field.
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. Yep. I have another one for you. How about Oz Hakeem's drop in New Orleans, the fumbled punt? The Rams had been they had outscored New Orleans in the fourth quarter of that game. I think they'd scored 4 touchdowns, maybe 3 touchdowns in that fourth quarter to get within 31-28. And if Oz catches that punt, their offense was so hot, there's no doubt they would have scored and won the game.
What about this one from the 3 and 4? Michael Porter Jr., if he didn't get injured.
Well, as Matthew pointed out. Matthew, you want to point this out on Mike here?
Yeah, which injury are you taking away? Because you got like 9 other to sift through for him to still actually get on the floor.
How about
take them all away?
Yeah, right. Okay.
An easy one on a national level, but Bill Buckner.
Oh yeah,
I mean that, or Bucky Dent's home run, against the Red Sox.
Yeah. Buckner, an easy play though, right? And that the game was tied, and that won it, but things were falling apart. But man, yeah, if Buckner doesn't have that ball go through his legs, then all of a sudden that game goes extra innings, and you never know what's going to happen.
Christian Laettner against Kentucky.
Yeah. What a play.
Yep. That's the other one, the catch.
I just thought of one that might change like American culture as we know it for the last 2 decades. What if Len Bias doesn't pass away? And what if he's Jordan instead of Jordan? What if that's the run that happens from the late 80s through the 90s is Len Bias and like the Celtics and not Jordan and the Bulls? How different is everything we're doing right now?
Yeah, he was thought to be that good that he could have lived up to that level when he passed away in 1986.
For Brooke, it must have been tough to interview Mike Jones the other day. You being a Tennessee fan, so the tackle would come to mind.
Yeah,
that's on the other side of it. Yeah, there's definitely another side of it. You know, honestly, the first time that I met Mike Jones is when he was still coaching over at SLU. So nice. It was just, to me, I don't have any hard feelings about it because it was just such a special moment being able to watch the greatest show on turf and the Music City Miracle. I talk about it all the time. That was the whole reason I got into sports other than playing tennis, is just watching those two great, fantastic football teams. So everything happens for a reason.
What about Buster Douglas knocking out Mike Tyson?
That changed the course of history, didn't it?
Yeah, I loved watching Mike Tyson. I watched that and I was like, are you kidding me? But Buster Douglas with the upset maybe of all time in boxing. Buster Douglas against Mike Tyson in his prime?
Yeah. I wonder who had money on Buster Douglas there.
Ooh, you're getting a little conspiracy theory here, Randall.
Yeah. But Mike Tyson went from being a guy who was going to be acclaimed as the greatest of all time to a guy who, he's not considered just a guy, but he's considered a flash in the pan.
Yeah, I guess so. He was so intriguing to watch, though, because of his power, his size, Customato, where he came from. Apparently, he did not train well for that fight, and that's what cost him. So that would be one I look at.
One, and I don't know how this would have worked out because of the way he performed at the major league level, but one of the tragic ones is what if Oscar Taveras had never passed away?
Yeah.
What about Darryl Kyle?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's another. You were starting Travis Smith in games when Darryl Kyle passed away.
Right.
I mean, that team was really good. You had to get out. You had to go get Chuck Finley. You had to bring back Andy Bennis. There was a lot of things that happened with that.
We got a couple of text people who didn't pass away, but still kind of in that same-ish line of thinking. What about if the Cardinals would have kept Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen?
Yeah.
That would be different.
It would be very different.
You'd have some pitching.
Well, I wonder if those guys would have been able to be developed here as they were in Miami and Arizona.
I think so. They were still coming into their own at that time. So I do think that. I had something here. What if Trent Green doesn't get hurt?
Yeah.
What happens to the fortunes of Trent and Kurt Warner?
And more importantly, Kurt Warner. Do we ever have the Kurt Warner story? And everybody around that team still says that if Trent doesn't get hurt, he was just so good. They're convinced that team would have won the Super Bowl anyway.
How about Steve Bartman?
Yeah. That's a good one. Changed his life.
I feel awful for him.
Me too. Yeah, he's never been able to go out in public. I think the Cubs offered to give him a ring or something like that, and he
tried to get him back to the ballpark too. Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, he said no.
Absolutely not. I'm not going back in that park. Get out of here.
There's a lot of good ones that are coming in on the text line
very quickly.
I like this one, the 314. What if Bo Jackson never gets hurt?
Yeah, and it didn't look serious either.
And there was a hip injury, and you watch him after that. He didn't run the same. He wasn't the same player, but, man, was he fun to watch.
Oh, my gosh. He was so fun to watch. And all he cared about was just playing. He didn't care about any of the optics, the media, the flashiness. He just wanted to go out there and play. Have you seen what he does now? He just hangs out.
Yeah, he's got it going pretty good.
Yeah, he just does whatever he wants. I think I saw this video where he was at a game, an Auburn game, like the other day, and a fan tried to come up and talk to him, and he was like, watch the game. Like, he just wants to live his life.
That's great. Matthew, you gave us
Yeah, I kind of like this one. I don't know if this counts, but what if steroids, never comes to life?
Never? Wow. That is
baseball be right now.
You do have a steroid era.
Yeah.
So, it would make a significant dent in the game for that time period, for sure.
And what if Barry Bonds or Mark McGwire never take them?
How many MVPs, Randy, for Bonds? 7? Yeah.
But does Roger Maris's record ever get beat?
I'd say no.
61. I agree with that.
I'd say no.
Yeah. The steroid era changed baseball fundamentally at its core and changed the numbers that we all knew. And whether it was 755 or whether it was 62.
Question for you guys, and I'm, of course, not advocating for steroid use here. I want to make sure I say this beforehand. But was it almost kind of a good thing because of how much attention it brought to baseball at that time?
Well, they always say it brought the game back.
Yes.
You're on the heels of the strike, and you needed people to get back and interested in the game, come to the ballpark. So in that regard, Brooke, I think it did. I do think that, generally speaking, it helped the sport. Now, we all have thoughts on it now that in retrospect, but in the moment, man, it was you could not miss an at-bat that McGuire and Sosa had. You just couldn't.
I still think it was awesome.
I do, too.
It was great.
I think they all should be in the Hall of Fame, too.
I do, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you give me that opportunity to sit there and watch number 62 again, I'd take it in a blink.
Were you at the ballpark?
Yeah, I was in the booth. I was sitting right next to Jack.
Yeah, I was sitting behind him.
Yeah.
I was in there, too.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
And it was, we can say this now, it was interesting because both Jack and Mike were being deferential, and Jack actually went into the booth next door to call his own version of number 62. Yeah.
Wow.
But then he stopped.
He didn't do it.
No, down the stretch as he got to 70, he stopped doing that.
Yeah. So pretty interesting. And Mike obviously had the call, and it was a great call by Mike Shannon. And as Mark points out, the shortest home run he hit all year.
Yep. Just over the wall.
Yeah, down the left field line. Amazing. Hey, thanks for your mic drops. We do appreciate it. Thank you very much for your texts. Coming up, the Cardinals have a large group of young players, but how great are they? That's next on 101 ESPN.
Hey everyone, it's Brooke for Universal Windows Direct. Have you been surprised by your energy bill lately? Then you start just looking for ways to cut down on costs. Look, I know that I have because especially last year, my winter bills were really bad. One way that you probably didn't even realize though is through your windows. And that's why you got to get connected with my guys over at Universal Windows Direct, where their windows keeps the cold air out and also the hot air from outside coming in because, you know, the St. Louis weather, guys, lately has been pretty weird. So you would need both of the protection for that. So call Universal Windows Direct today and they'll upgrade your new windows to triple pane glass for free. That's 3 layers of glass between you and the cold outside. Triple pane, means this: extra protection from the elements, a consistent temperature in your home, increased energy efficiency, which leads to those reduced heating and cooling costs, helping with that energy bill that we were talking about. So call this number 314-334-2522 to schedule your free in-home estimate today, and you can get all of these benefits. For every 2 windows you buy, you get the next 2 for free, plus that free upgrade to triple pane glass, and they'll double your energy tax credit. Restrictions apply. Tell them that I told you to call, and you'll get an additional $250 off your project for the last windows you'll ever need. Go to universalwindowsdirect.com, and like me, you'll be saying, I love my windows.
This is Rocky with your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Last night, St. Louis City gets a 2-1 win over the Houston Dynamo in Leg 1 of their first-round matchup in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They'll be back in action on Saturday as they will open up their MLS schedule as they host Real Salt Lake down at City Park. Coming up tonight, the Fighting Illini are back in action. They are now number 12th in the nation, and they face off against Penn State in a Big Ten battle. You can catch that game tip-off at 5:30. That is your Sports Center update, driven by Johnny Londoff. Find your roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and LondoffAutoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Cardinals talk a lot about their youth, as they should. A lot of people are excited about it. We're excited about the Cardinals' youth. But the Athletic put together an all under 25 team. And the Cardinals, despite having under 25 players, multiple under 25 players on their team, didn't place a player on the all under 25 team that the Athletic put together. Jordan Walker is 21. Mason Wynn is 21. Ivan Herrera is 23. Nolan Gorman is 23. Matthew Liberatore is 23. Alec Burleson is 24. Dylan Carlson is 24. Andre Palante is 24. Yet the Cardinals don't have a single player on this team that has Gabriel Moreno of the Diamondbacks catching, the infield Tristan Casas of the Red Sox at first, Matt McClain of the Reds at second, Gunnar Henderson of the Orioles at third. The shortstop is Bobby Witt Jr. of the Royals. Edward Julian is their utility man. And then in the outfield, they've got Evan Carter of the Rangers, Julio Rodriguez of the Mariners, Corbin Carroll of the Diamondbacks, and Michael Harris the second of the Braves. And then their DH is Royce Lewis, not our Nolan Gorman. And then their starting rotation has Brian Bello of the Red Sox, Bobby Miller of the Dodgers, Yuri Perez of the Marlins, Grayson Rodriguez of the Orioles, Gavin Williams of the Guardians. Number one, do you take this to heart? Is this a concern that for all the Cardinals under 25 guys, they don't have any on this team?
Not really, because for whatever reason, outside of Katie Wu and Jeremy Rutherford, the great writers of The Athletic over there for the Cardinals and Blues, for some reason, it seems like The Athletic has something against St. Louis teams. What is going on here?
The one that got me was Gorman, because left-handed power hitters are coveted in the game. And this is a 30 home run guy if he stays on the field, 30 to 35 maybe. I can understand the Jordan Walker thing. I certainly understand Mason Wynn not being there. You got Bobby Wood Jr. You're not going to surpass him and what he's done. But the one that surprised me a little bit was Nolan Gorman.
And they looked at Gorman strictly as a second baseman, and I don't believe the Cardinals are looking at Gorman strictly as a second baseman.
Right.
I would think, and Royce Lewis has been a pretty good hitter, but Gorman has a larger sample size and has been very impressive in his own right.
From our YouTube chat from Opening Drive superfan Josh, perhaps because we're overvaluing the Cardinals' young players?
Well, that's one of the things I said. The Cardinals have talked about their young players. Maybe they do overvalue their young players, or maybe the people that are, and by the way, the Cardinals have a history of doing that, or maybe the people at The Athletic are undervaluing the Cardinal players. I have no argument. How can you argue with Moreno, or how can you argue with Corbin Carroll or Bobby Witt or Gunnar Henderson? I mean, those guys have all been terrific. But that's the point of what we're talking about. The Cardinals have said we have all these young players, yet none of them are thought of nationally by the Athletics minor league experts as being among the best.
Talk about overvaluing your talent. Yankees did that all the time. Traded players. Cardinals did that most recently in the 2000s by taking these young guys that were probably overvalued, turning them into trades that got you certainly veterans, and then signing those veterans to long-term deals. So it's not a bad thing to overvalue your prospects and try to. But now, if you look at it now, there's so many writers and specialized look at the minor leagues. A little tougher to do, I think, now than even 10 years ago.
Yeah, the scouting of the minor leagues by the media, because a lot of media people wind up in major league front offices, and by other teams, Cardinals notwithstanding, is a lot better. I mean, when the Marlins had the choice of choosing between Junior Fernandez and Sandy Alcantara, and they wound up taking Sandy Alcantara. And a lot of people in baseball thought Junior Fernandez was a better prospect, but they took Alcantara, and they scouted him correctly. Same thing with the Rays, right, with Randy Arozarena. The Cardinals obviously didn't see in Arozarena what the Rays saw, so other franchises are doing a really good job of professional scouting.
It happens a lot. It really does. Now, going back to this, I think that there is a lot of young talent with the Cardinals and what they will potentially be able to do, but it really isn't that surprising that maybe they haven't made the list, because with Jordan Walker, the outfield is still new to him. His name is still new, and so you'll have to see what he'll be able to do in year two. Mason Wynn, we saw a very small sample size of him last season. Will he be able to reach up to that, big potential? There's so many other names where what really matters is, will they be able to continue to develop and have that ability to do so this season?
You know, I'd put on there, and he hasn't even played a game yet. Jackson Holiday.
Yeah, I would too. I was kind of surprised he wasn't on there.
You know, he's put on like 15 pounds of muscle. He looks in great shape. He's hitting for power, they say. He's going to be a stud, man. Baltimore is going to be really good.
Yeah, the shortstop is Bobby Witt Jr.
I'm not touching that one. I'm not. He's too good.
And here's the other one. When we talk about the Cardinals, what do Michael Harris II, Corbin Carroll, and Julio Rodriguez all have in common as young players under 25?
Can run.
And they all have the big contracts already.
Yep.
So they're more noticeable, perhaps, than a Jordan Walker, because their major league teams have recognized, okay, this is a part of our future. And I think you do look a little bit harder at somebody that already has the contract.
Really interested to see if they go to Walker with an extension.
Me too.
And what that looks like. There is somewhat of a bar that's set, but, man, it's risky on both sides. Now, you say from a player's perspective, I could be walking away from millions. If I was a player, I'd take that long-term deal because I've set up myself and my family financially forever. And from the organization side, you're given a guaranteed contract, and you don't know if the player's going to, number one, live up to it, and number two, injuries. Injuries can curtail what happens with that player, so it's risky really on both sides.
I like the idea of doing it, though, because as time goes on, he's going to become more and more expensive. The asking price is going to continue to go up. So to be able to lock him up, I know it's very unlikely that it seems like the Cardinals will do that with this extension. I don't know. Maybe is there something that you think that could happen here soon that would change that?
He'd be a guy I'd look at. I mean, I don't think it's off the table at this point. Especially with some of the trends in baseball, and you're seeing how high the numbers are getting for free agents, and you try to be as fiscally responsible as you can. You know, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Last year, before the season started, the Diamondbacks gave Corbin Carroll an 8-year deal for $111 million.
Yes.
They didn't allow him to get into the second year, and he had a great year, Rookie of the Year. Last year, the Royals allowed Bobby Witt to play his second year. He turned in the numbers, and his new contract is $288.7 million over 11 years. I would, if I were in the team's shoes, be inclined to get this done as quickly as possible because the price is only going to go up. It's not going to go down at all for Jordan Walker.
Do you think, though, that you wait just a little bit, not maybe all the way through year two, but just a couple months, 3 months in, make sure everything's trending in the right way, which everybody, I think, feels that that's going to happen, and then say, okay, let's do it. We know that this guy, the numbers are jumping off the page, and let's figure something out.
I like that idea, but I would also prefer, if I were in the Cardinals' shoes, to try to save money, to start those conversations now just to know what we're looking at.
Yeah, where you stand on the other side. Yeah, it's a valid point,
and
for
then
sure.
let it be a negotiation. And then if he starts off great, then you say, let's get this done fast. And if he starts off slow, you say, okay, we can wait a little while.
Well, and then also think about what it does from the mental aspect when you talk about that Corbin Carroll contract, which really worked out for the Diamondbacks in that situation. What do you think that does for a player when they have that security and knowing that they are a part of that bigger picture for a long time?
I think you have to know the player. I think that you have to know that the player is going to continue to progress in terms of work ethic, how they deal with teammates. What do you want them around your organization, your city for that long? And if you check those boxes, then I don't think it's that big of a deal.
I think Jordan Walker checks all those boxes.
I do too.
Yeah.
And especially with what you did to him last year, if you give him a contract now and say, hey, you're going to be here, you're our guy, I think that's going to, not that he's not confident already, but that his confidence will go through the roof.
I think he can have a monster year, by the way. He may have a great year this season. What's going to be interesting to me is where they put him in the lineup. I'd like to sandwich him in between a couple of big bats, gets more pitches to hit. Maybe teams are more aggressive in how they approach him instead of being down in the lineup, which I understand why they did it. You didn't want to put extra pressure on him, but very interested to see where they put him in the lineup this year.
And I think he embraces the pressure. Now that we've seen him, I think he really likes being put in positions where he's counted upon.
Yeah, I would agree.
That's Dan. That's Brooke. I'm Randy. Coming up on 101 ESPN, we're going to head down the stretch. Matthew will have a little edition of Rocc and Roll here on 101 ESPN. Hey, how about the fact that the warm weather is here? It's amazing. 70 degrees today. We're going to have 70 degrees next week, and we appear to be past the super cold. So it's time to get in touch with Hoffman Brothers to find out about your air conditioner, because before you know it, the super hot weather is going to be here in St. Louis. Hoffman Brothers will come out, and if you're a part of their home protection plan, they're going to bring filters with them. They'll warn you when you need service every year for your air conditioning and heating, but they're going to make sure that your air conditioner is good to go for the summer months. There's nothing worse than having the hot weather in St. Louis and having your air conditioner go out. And Hoffman Brothers is great at diagnosing anything that ails your air conditioner and making sure that it's good to go for the summer. And if you need a new air conditioner, they're going to tell you, they're going to be honest, and they're a fantastic American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer, and they can get you in great shape for keeping your family cool during the months that are so hot here in St. Louis. It's Hoffman Brothers, 314-664-3011. Find them on the web at hoffmanbros.com and make your appointment today to get your air conditioner looked at with Hoffman Brothers Heating, Cooling, Electrical, and Plumbing.
There's still so many ways to play your daily fantasy. My favorite way is with my friends over at Underdog Fantasy in their newest Pick'em game, which is active in Missouri, Pick'em Champions. You just pick 2 to 5 players from at least 2 different teams, select higher or lower on the player stats, and your entries put alongside other Underdog entries. Right now, the NBA might not be getting going until Thursday, but that doesn't matter at Underdog because they still have all the entries up and available, and they're going to be adding bonuses throughout the day. Yesterday, you were able to get stat projections lowered on Jokic, Luka, Wemby. So today, be watching out for those boosts because those games are coming on Thursday, and there's going to be a whole NBA slate for you to get ready with your entries. I know that's what I'm going to be doing on Thursday when I combine my usual favorite entries, Blues and NBA, all into one. It's with Underdog Fantasy, super easy to play and even easier to get started. You just go to their easy-to-use mobile app or to UnderdogFantasy.com, and you sign up with promo code ROCC, and Underdog will match your first deposit up to $100. Plus, they'll give you a mystery special pick to use on your first Pick'em entry. That's essentially going to be free money. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROCC to get your first deposit of $10 or more up to $100 match plus your special pick. Must be 18 plus and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concern with your play. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncbgambling.org.
I want to rock. And roll.
Let's rock. Let's rock today.
Let's read the news. And how much is that Mega Millions now for Friday?
$525 million.
Let's win. Let's win, baby.
Would you? Okay, let's get you on the record. If you win, you splitting it 4 ways here?
Oh.
Yes. If I win Friday nights and I get the entire $525 million, I will split it with Matthew and Brooke and Dan. I will.
You may never see me again. Get that money, I'm adios.
We were discussing that. What would you do in that situation? So you do win the $525 million. Would you guys tell people, or would you change your phone number and disappear so you don't get a million different phone calls and people begging for money?
I think what you need is a no person. You need a firewall. So you tell
like
people,
if you get tickets,
yeah,
right? And you're a hometown guy.
Yeah, right. So, you need somebody, you need a no person. But, I would tell people after I get everything all set up, and have the money taken care of.
I would donate a lot of it.
I would too.
To be honest with you. A lot of charitable efforts that are out there, good for the city. I would donate a bunch.
Me too.
Become
I'm the
a
same
philanthropist.
way. Yeah.
Philanthropist
That'd
and
be really
socialite.
nice. Yeah.
We'd be socialites, Randy.
I don't know. Would I go to
I feel like you guys are already socialites.
Not quite.
Yeah. March 2nd, I'm doing the Duo Dog Gala. I'm wearing a suit to that.
Ooh.
So the Duo Dogs are cool.
So you wear a suit maybe 5 times a year?
Yeah, 5, 6, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know my suit story.
Yeah. You look great in one.
Thank you.
No problem.
I've got like 4, and they aren't color or style, they're weight related.
Lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight.
Yeah,
man.
I get it.
Obese, yeah.
Guys have it so much easier.
We do.
So much easier.
Yeah, we can, for a wedding, we rent a tux, Brooke.
Unreal. I mean, they have rental dress services now for women, but still a little bit different.
And you don't want to do that for your wedding dress, do you? You don't really want to rent
a
wedding dress, right?
No.
So what do we got, Matthew, in the old, have you picked yours out? Have you said yes to the dress?
That transition.
Yeah.
I have.
It was more like a reverse transition. It was like he started and he came back.
He's like, wait a minute. I got a question to ask here.
No, I knew this, but I just wanted the general public to know that you had said yes to the dress.
I have said yes to the dress.
Okay.
It's been done.
Yeah. The other question is, and I don't think I've asked you this one, did you have anybody that was resistant, or was I'm not going to call them a jerk, but somebody that kept saying, I don't like that one on you?
No.
Good. Okay.
No.
Like
everybody
the show,
was very easy. That's TV. I think they really. It was just literally me and my mom and my future mother-in-law.
Okay.
So very easy people to get along with.
Good. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it was simple.
Glad you have it. And you love it. You said yes to this.
I do. I said yes to the dress.
I hate myself for this transition, but
okay, let's
Brooke said yes to the dress. Well, we know someone who said yes to the desert. This is Desiree Reed-Francois. She accepted her new job with her opening press conference at Arizona.
Leaving behind the incredible people and the community at Mizzou was not an easy decision. The student athletes, I gave birth to one of them, the staff, the coaches, incredible people, the President Choi, and the Tiger fan base. The SEC, Commissioner Sankey are incredible, and I am forever grateful for the experiences and my friendships that were forged there. They will last a lifetime. However, when the opportunity arose to return to the University of Arizona, the only place I would have considered leaving Mizzou for, I knew it was a chance I could not pass up. It's home. Just quite simply, it's home.
Well, it seems like it was pretty easy if you took a pay cut to take over an athletic department with $177 million deficit.
Yeah, it's home with $177 million in deficit.
Yeah. By the way, she mentioned her staff. She mentioned the student athletes. She mentioned the coaches. I didn't hear any thanks for the board of curators there.
Oh, wow. Nope. There we go. That's what we should be looking into. Arizona also has to buy her out, I believe. Correct?
Yeah, but it's not a big deal. But when you're $177 million in debt, what's another couple million?
We're just going to keep adding this up, aren't we?
But more. She did choke up a little bit. That's good. She's going to miss us, I know.
Yes.
And she did a really good job at Mizzou. It's a big loss for Mizzou and a good gain for Arizona. Congratulations to them.
She come on the air with you guys?
Yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was great.
She's very nice.
And she always made her way into St. Louis. She was always at the National Football Foundation events, and she was fantastic. Coach Gates talked about how she was at all the events, and when they would do their events during the summer, she was always not only there, but always very accessible, not only to the media, but the fans. There's hundreds of fans out there that have had conversations with Desiree Reed-Francois. And let me tell you something. Every year she would come in and do the National Football Foundation luncheon, and they would fill it up with like 50 tables. And this past year in the fall, she said, do we have time before we get started? And I said, oh, yeah, take your time. And she said, I've talked to every table, but I need to talk to that one and that one. She wanted to engage every single individual in the room before we got started as a group session. That's how she works. And that's a big ask for that board of curators as they look for their new athletic director, to find somebody who can engage the fan base and the donors like Desiree does.
I'm very interested to see who will be the next person that comes in, because it will be hard to fill that. Because in her short time there at Mizzou, she definitely has changed that program a lot, and in a good way.
Absolutely. She's great.
MLS kicks off tonight. Inter Miami is going to be playing. And if you guys didn't know, which no one would blame you because how would you know, MLS season is going to be kicking off with replacement refs, which we've known in our time watching sports has never gone poorly for a league or anything like that.
Will we really notice? Is it that bad?
I think it's certainly noticeable in soccer, because the calls can change games in a bigger way than even football. Like the football one was magnified because it's the one guy here, one guy here in the end zone, nationally televised game. But the thing is in soccer, one call of you saying that's a card-worthy foul in the box because you're inexperienced, that changes the game. That's a penalty kick. That's completely shifts it in a lot of ways. So I definitely think this can be big, because here's the thing. It's not just the refs in the game. It's also the sideline officials, and those are the guys who call offsides, and sometimes they suck at their job.
I guess my question is this. Do MLS fans in general, not overall soccer fans, but do MLS fans think that the officiating is great? Like, will they be on the side of the officials here?
They'll be on the side of the officials as business people, because their asks are not ridiculous. But I think, fans always hate officials.
Well, but handball, that comes to mind.
Oh yeah, that last year, huh?
Yeah, that's
But do you want a ref who's less experienced in that situation?
No, absolutely
as opposed to a more experienced ref?
Sometimes I'll take the better one.
I'll be paying attention to Messi. Is he playing tonight?
Yeah,
he is playing tonight. Yes.
I'm not going to worry about the refs, so I'm going to watch Messi.
You said the exact thing that, like, the really diehard MLS fans just pisses them off, and that's what I love about it, is because they hate that people want to watch Messi instead of just wanting to watch the Chicago Fire suck.
One of the things,
which is it makes a lot of sense.
Messi's
exactly
one of the greatest
That's
players
the point.
ever.
There's a reason why the MLS is paying him. There's a reason why essentially City is subsidizing Messi's contract to probably lose to him at some point this year, because it's better for the whole league.
One of the things that I love about our soccer fan base here in St. Louis, and it wasn't always this way, but I believe that they have the desire now to bring as many people under the umbrella of being soccer fans as they possibly can. It used to be, you can't be one of us, don't even talk about it. But now, there are still people out there that are still going to say that. But when you go to games and you talk to soccer fans at Fenton Bar and Grill, they want you, if you're a novice, to be brought under the umbrella so that you become a fan too. I don't know why any fan would want to limit the fan base of the people that are watching their team. Sometimes that happens, though. But I love our fan base. The City SC fan base is really open-minded. And they understand that not everybody has been a soccer fan all their life.
Yeah, very, very welcoming, because some people who are just getting into it, either way, you have people going in and participating in the environment, and I think it's a very welcoming fan base. So just seeing all the action, too, leading into the game, how can you not want to be a part of that? It's exciting to see.
Right. And to your point, Dan, a guy like Messi is going to bring people under the umbrella. That's the thing. That one superstar, if you get 10 people that say, okay, I'm going to watch the game because of Messi. If you have 1,000 people that watch the game because of Messi and 10 become big fans that are investing money eventually in the sport, that's a good thing.
I would say you guys casual fans of soccer, I would watch Messi. Mm-hmm. I'm a casual fan, but he'll be on tonight. I'll watch.
Yep.
He's that good.
And by the way, I don't think Mbappe has signed his deal yet, so the opening is still there over at SC. We know you're listening, Diego, because you were on with us yesterday. You love the show now. Just go get Mbappe for us, okay?
Yeah, I'm sure he won't cost that much to bring in.
The worth of
it's the Enterprise family, Brooke. Come on, they got money.
Yeah, but apparently the franchise is worth $200 million, which is also what it would cost to buy Mbappe.
Well, here's the thing, though. Where's he going? Saudi Arabia?
Real Madrid.
Real Madrid. How's Real Madrid's zoo?
Free zoo, according to Randy.
There you go.
Thank you.
The team of the Royals. So that's a nice zoo.
Just happened.
The zoo.
Great job.
Driving force.
Great job by producer, audio, video engineer Matthew Rocchio. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
Brooke, did you have fun today?
Yes, and you can throw in emos, too. Do they have emos?
They do not. In Madrid, they don't have emos. They do have St. Louis University. They have a campus over there. in Madrid. Pretty cool. Yeah, but they don't have emos. Yeah, thank you. Daniel.
Yeah.
You were awesome today, as always.
Oh, you were great.
You're the king.
You and Brooke were outstanding. Rocc, great job as always.
And we thank you for tuning in, texting in, and being a part of the show. We have a balloon party with T-Mac and Ajax coming up for all of us until Monday. Come on, I think it's Friday.
Whoa.
Until tomorrow morning at 7. Have a great hump day, everyone.